Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Mostly Peaceful Latinas. I'm Bella,
And I'm Linda.
and this is a really special episode because we are live for the first time. So, cheers to
Yes.
us.
Woo, woo.
Let's
Two
go.
special guests in the house, two of our great friends, and we want to make sure that we give them a quick intro. So, Marcos, you can go first.
What it do? It's a caballo. I'm Marcos, but I go by caballo here in Miami, and I came here para repartir pinga. Holla back.
And we'll make sure that you guys know what pinga and palapinga means in a little bit from the Cubans themselves. And Josue, please
Absolutely.
introduce yourself.
My name is Josue. I run the page What Josue Has To Say. If you don't know me, I'm a little bit of a podcaster myself, and I've had
Nice.
Linda and Bella on my
Yeah.
podcast as well. I do a local commentary, a little bit of comedy, and that's about it. I'm just a
Just
regular,
vibing.
Miami guy.
Yeah, so I think today we just want to, we've never done a live stream before, so we're just testing the waters.
We
And
really want to feed off the energy of, like,
Right.
first of all, we really want to give you guys a taste of what the Miami vibe is like, right? You couldn't have four people that represent Miami culture better, I think, than the four of us.
Big facts.
So hopefully we'll give you guys a little bit of taste today of what it's like to be a Latino in Miami, and not the idea that the media gives you of what Latinos should be or should act.
Absolutely. And I hold on one second. I just want to make sure people are saying we're not live.
They're live is just they're seeing those two squares. They hit the live, the one that's live that says red. It's like a red live.
So why
Just
doesn't
go
it
back
show?
to the main channel? You'll see it. You're right now, like I'm watching you live. There's 19 people.
Okay. Okay.
Technical
Just
difficulties.
Just kidding,
Just
guys.
kidding, guys. Okay,
Maria
you are
Jose
live.
Says you're live.
Okay, awesome. Just kidding. All right, never mind. I see. Sorry, guys. First time. I have no idea what we're doing. Okay, so let's get into this. What do we have?
Yeah. So first on the list, I think that given exactly who we have around the table, I think that one of the topics that's trending so much across the mainstream media is what they call the disinformation amongst Latinos. We're conservatives. I think that Josue is probably the more liberal out of the four of us, and I feel
Yeah.
like we've been bringing him over to the
the
light
dark
side.
side,
No,
yeah.
we are the
Jos-
light
Josue-
side.
Josue was definitely Latinx prior to.
Tuvo su momento.
Prior to the
got bamboozled.
concentration camp.
I got
prior
bamboozled,
to the
man. I got
far-right
bamboozled.
concentration camp.
So, like, tell us a little bit about that. So, Marcos was actually one of the first friends that I had that was a conservative when we were hella young, when everybody was still completely brainwashed by the Obama deal, a dream, the Hope campaign. Marcos was like a 50-year-old middle-aged Republican man that had seen it all, and he was like, absolutely not. We're not going down this
Fuck
road."
yeah. Holla back.
How many fights did we get into on Facebook talking politics?
Oh my God, but this was even before like the comedy or before I was any kind of.
Yeah.
It was just. I'm la pinga, and I wasn't gonna stand around hearing everybody talk this bullshit. And I always had a good idea of what the Democratic. And by the way, I don't think that the Republican Party is all that either.
No.
Of course
Most
I do
of us-
not.
Most of us
Agreed.
don't
I
like.
do not, and
right.
I also share a vast amount of similarities with liberals.
Right.
I'm open about drug use. You know, I'm fucking. I personally, I'm pro choice. I share a lot of things with liberals, but when it comes down to how they run shit, from a financial standpoint,
Fiscal.
they're not
can't.
fiscal conservatives in any sense of the way, and they believe in too much of a nanny state. They're always
Right.
trying to victimize.
Cover me harder, daddy.
Yeah,
That's
and
an idiot.
I've always felt just like I felt when I went to church.
Yeah.
That I felt I was being like pandered to, because I believe in God, but I'm not religious.
Mhm.
I don't follow a particular religion, and I always felt when I was in church that I was being pandered to. That's how I always felt when Democrats used to speak to me. And it's always like if I had this problem that somebody was holding me down, and
They were gonna step in and save you from
they're
the
here,
society.
they're here to save me, and
Right.
nothing happened. I saw all these people that voted for these people. Nothing happened. They were in the same place they were 4 years later, arguing about the same shit.
Because if they fix the problems, then how are they going to get reelected?
100%. And listen, I'm sure that it all started with a good intention somewhere in the root of the fucking cause. But like anything else, it's been heavily fucking corrupted to the point where now the whole Democratic Party is just based on the trying to get you through identity politics. Their whole party,
Right.
it's just that's how they get at you.
And they also have to focus on the social issues. Without the social issues, they wouldn't have much to like
identity
or
politics.
that's literally identity politics.
They group you
Right.
into they put you in a group instead of you individualizing
And
yourself.
it's why they're so pissed off right now that they have. I mean, let's be honest. Majority of Latinos still heavily support the Democratic Party. What it is that in the Trump era, they saw a shift, and it was a significant shift, especially in certain areas, South Florida, some of the counties in Texas that are at the border, that they've been predominantly for many years deep blue districts, and they flipped red during the Trump 2020 campaign or election. So what we're seeing now is that they're not even trying to understand why people are going against our party or voting Republican. It's
They're doubling down. They're doubling down.
They're doubling down, and they're also basically calling us stupid. They're like, "Oh, it's just misinformation." Like,
Yeah.
and it's also you'll have like Black writers say that Latinos have internalized like racism and it's xenophobia, and they vote against their interests.
Because how do you discredit something? You label it misinformation.
Oh, no,
That's
of
their
course.
go-to
What it
strategy.
comes down to is that we don't accept the labels of victimization, right? Like they're so used to giving everybody a social justice cause of their choice so that they can make themselves a victim. And I think that culturally, there's something innate within Latinos where it's like we don't want to be victims. We don't, I think about like my dad, when he first had to receive his social security check, which you work for, he was like, I'm not going to take welfare. It's like, well,
I invite anybody who thinks that we're victims like that, or that we didn't earn what we got. Go back and see that the reason that we feel this way, the reason that we don't want anything given to us, is because we built this whole fucking city.
I was about to say that.
Literally.
Built the
There's
whole
nothing
fucking
about
city.
the Latino culture that is a victim.
right.
Nothing.
Any
With nothing.
look at all these third world countries. Like you come from that, you survived that,
Yeah.
you come here. What victimhood is there? There's none.
And it's so what he's saying. This city, this dope ass city,
It's
Miami,
built by
is
immigrants.
It was
Yeah.
built specifically by
All-
Cuban
all-
Americans.
Absolutely. Immigrants,
Specifically by Cuban
predominantly
Americans.
Cubans, but it was
Yeah.
it was a full-on effort by every,
Right.
because obviously South Florida and
The
Cuba,
melting
there's always
pot.
been a hub
right.
for all South America and any immigrants coming from the Caribbean. So we all got together and built this shit from the ground up, because aquí no había nada, pero judío. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And swamp.
And that's why Billy hates us still. But we'll get into Billy a little
Yeah.
bit
We'll get
later.
into that a little bit later. It does, and,
Little
you know,
Billy.
you think about like the different stories. Me and Marcos grew up in like the ghetto. Like we grew up in the hoods of Little Havana. Like
Yeah.
there's there a lot of people that we know succeeded and went on to do amazing things with their life and have amazing careers. And there was nothing about the demographic of where we grew up in, which we grew up around gangs and fucking poverty and all these other things. And there wasn't anything about that determined who was going to be successful or not. We have people that were in our class that are, show up to events in their private fucking yachts. And then we know people that are sucking dick somewhere.
No, absolutely. No, yeah. But listen, in terms of just the victimization that comes from and that's the main reason that I don't resonate with them, because there are things that, listen, they have ideas that are well put into place if executed the right way. But that whole pandering to me, as if though I'm being marginalized in this country. When we came here and built this city from the ground up, it's like, and then they'll tell you, they'll tell Cubans, oh, you're just self-hating Latinos. You want to be white.
Literally, I have a tweet.
You want to be white.
Yeah, Billy Corbett says that shit all the time. That's his go-to.
You European spick.
Yeah, 100%.
But here's my thing. It's like, if you move to a country, why wouldn't you want to assimilate to the main culture? Which in this case, obviously, that Miami is an exception, but in the majority of the population in this country is white. So like, if you moved here, why wouldn't you want to assimilate
you're
to
moving
that
there
culture?
for a reason, aren't you?
For a reason. Right. You're moving here to take it, and I wouldn't say take advantage, but they did build a better system
You do
than
wanna take
other
full
countries.
advantage.
And
Why
our
is there
countries
people
And-
risking their life to cross the
Right.
border to come over here? It's because
Homie.
America's the greatest country that ever existed. No other country is going to offer you the opportunities that America has. America has by far the largest number of millionaires than any other country in the entire world. This is the land of opportunity. It always has been that way. And
most
despite
importantly,
the campaign that has started since I believe the presidency of Barack Obama, which is when Americans feel like they need to start apologizing for being Americans, because he was very
The apology
apologetic.
the apology tour.
He was on his apology tour,
The
apologizing
apology
for
tour.
our lack of culture, our lack of progression as Americans. Americans start self-doubting their own abilities. This country is amazing because of the opportunities. It's why we let in more immigrants than any other country
Look at
in the
all the
entire
self-hating
world.
white people. Look at all the self-hating white people who literally like hate their race.
They apologize for
they
being white,
apologize
which is
for being white
ridiculous.
and having white privilege and all these things. And you see a lot of that, right? Even when we get into the Martha's Vineyard, like it's probably most of those people. And then what DeSantis did, whether people agree with it or not, and say he's using them as props or this is a political stunt, what it really showed is that those people don't want to be bothered by the policies that they vote for.
Right.
They
correct.
don't they want us to feel that we want a humane. Oh my God, humanity is back in the White House. Compassion is back in the White House. You guys are filthy rich in one of the richest zip codes in America, and you can't take in 50 immigrants, which is not even one.
No,
Now,
they
one of
declared
them-
it. What is it? They declared
a national
emergency or
Like,
something.
They
Called
wanted
the
the National
military.
Guard. They
They're a
needed
bunch of
military.
150 National Guards to
Guards.
handle 50
They use
immigrants.
the
that had been
military to
flown
get
in.
immigrants out of there. That's what it showed us.
And I really
They're
don't-
willing to
I really
use the
don't get it.
military for that.
because that one in particular, me da una roña, bro. It's you're gonna promote. That's another. You're pandering
You're pandering.
to immigrants for their vote,
100%.
telling them, "Oh, you're gonna have this, you're gonna have that." But when it comes time, going, all right, we're here. Well, no, call the fucking National Guard.
Go to Texas.
Feed them lunch and fucking call the
And get
National
them the
Guard.
hell out of here.
And one of the things that they said was, we just don't have the resources. Like we're not like one of those. We're not like Florida. We're not like Texas. Like we don't have those resources. We're not properly equipped to take care of these people. What are you talking about?
Obama has 10 rooms in his fucking mansion there.
Somebody looked up all the Airbnbs that were actually available on that island, and there was a lot of them.
They showed
lot
emails
of
where they
them.
were complaining, going, "Hey, what's up? I can't put these people in my
Yeah,
house."
this can't be going on
The people,
forever,
yeah,
right? And then we
yeah,
saw
yeah.
the Facebook group chat where they
Yeah.
started turning on each other, and they're like,
Yeah.
Brad, you voted for this, and it's only right that we let them
Fucking
in.
What a bunch of cucks, bro.
You know what's hilarious to me
Hey,
is
by the
that
way,
they're
the immigrants, they came out, the immigrants said that the wine out there sucks dick.
like,
I swear.
le dieron vino.
Pinche
in the 24
putos estos. Oh no,
Well, they
those
weren't married,
Venezuelans.
but
Mama huevos.
You know what's hilarious to me though, that they're like, "Oh, DeSantis is publicity stunt. DeSantis is publicity stunt, bro." Everything these motherfuckers
It's a
do is
publicity stunt. Everything.
Like,
And they
how
eat it up.
dare you?
They eat it up.
Hey, and when they do one, they fuck it up. Look at Biden with a bike. You think Biden was really riding that bike for miles before he fell
No.
off of it?
Only
He
like
got
1
on it. He
mile.
got on it. Fucking rode 50 yards around a bush. Hey guys, I'm coming. Boom.
Y comió tierra.
Papizo.
You know what I remember during 2020, during the George Floyd riots, when they dressed up in all of that garb from that one like African nation.
Oh my God! Yeah, they
No.
kneeled down.
Oh my God,
And they
they
did
kneeled
the
down and they
theatrics.
did
The
that.
theatrics.
It's actually one of my favorite pictures. I have it saved under my favorites. It's that memorable to me because it's like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and another one, and they're like this with their little, what is that called? African what?
Bro, I mean, they've got like the garb on. They've
Yes,
got like
yes,
their,
yes,
their
yes,
little.
yes,
Son
yes,
unos
thing. They have the
payasos.
crown.
They're clowns.
Well, actually, today,
And the
if you-
nation that it came from was super offended
Isn't
by
that
it. because
appropriation?
It is absolutely
Yeah, isn't that the same
appropriation.
shit that they're like
And it's
fighting
like, I
against?
guess that there was some
It's-
level
they
that
could
the
appropriate.
particular patterns that they were
Yeah.
wearing required that there was like a certain hierarchy of the respect that you
Listen.
needed in order to, it had to be earned.
Listen,
And these motherfuckers are just out there putting it on like a Halloween costume.
do you have to go any further with how just detached these people are with actual Hispanics and minorities? That number one, remember when Biden for Hispanic Heritage Month felt that it was okay, felt that it would connect with Hispanic
Oh, the
people
Despacito thing.
to come and play the pasito.
Bro.
He was like, I got
guys,
this.
I got it. Hey, Spix. Hey, little Spix, I got it.
Otro payaso más.
We're like, bro,
Do
that's
you
like
know
a
how far fucking
three-year-old
detached-
song.
Look, you have that one. You have a Comebinga speechwriter that wrote breakfast burritos for fucking Jill.
And bodegas.
Jill.
And bodegas.
And
Bodegas.
Bodegas.
That was her because she doesn't know how to pronounce it like una huevinga.
Sí
She
se
had her-
puede.
Sí se
It
puede.
was puede. It wasn't even se puede.
Hey, and then you have Hillary Clinton when she was on the Breakfast Club. They ask her, "What's one item that you always have in your purse?" Hot sauce.
Oh no, it was Kamala, no?
No,
No, that was Hillary
Hillary
Clinton.
Fuck out.
That was
She had la
Hillary
papayona to fucking say
Yeah.
that she carries around hot sauce.
Qué cara de guante la tipa,
Hey,
brother.
when the fuck do you really picture Hillary Clinton being at La Cirque in fucking New York?
I got hot
let
sauce
me
in
go
my
get my
bag.
Cholula.
Grab my Cholula out
Get
of
the
my
fuck
bag,
outta
my
here.
Louisiana girl.
They're all a bunch of fucking frauds, bro. It's
Ahí ya la estaba
If you
representando
go
Alcera.
to the Washington Post Instagram right now or the New York Times, you're going to see how those immigrants are already doing photo ops for the Democrats. So it's
Get
not
out.
like it's not pictures like of them boarding the bus or like casual. It's like literally them like sitting on stairs, like against the wall, like
and we'll
a
guess
whole photo shoot
Hey.
of these immigrants. And I'm like,
be mad.
this is a political stunt.
It's,
This is what they're accused
Everything
us
they do
of.
is a political
Yeah.
stunt.
Everything.
it's obvious that what I want to say is, isn't it obvious to these people that after 4 years of being here, that they just told me all this for my vote. Hey, let's trick these motherfuckers coming in here. Hey, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. You don't get it. How do you not look back and go, coño?
I mean, I think that-
yo soy come pinga ahora.
Right, like that might be the case for that. But before we go on, I want to thank Eric Thibault, who gave us our first donation on
Thank
a
you,
live.
Eric.
Thank
Holla
you,
back.
Eric, so much.
Damn,
We
you
appreciate
gotta
your
get the little
support.
OnlyFans sound
Is
when you
there-
get coins.
What is
Okay,
that?
the fact that I've never heard that sound, so I have no
When you
idea.
get tips.
Separate como cajito al lado, brother.
No, we know who's
Keep-
using
keep 'em
OnlyFans.
coming.
We know who's using OnlyFans. We know who's using OnlyFans here. Okay.
Oh man, where were we? Shit, I
You were
lost my
saying
train of
thank you.
thought.
Thank you to Eric. Thank you, Eric. I don't know what were you saying about the immigrants.
Yeah, it was
And
about the
Martha's
immigrants.
Vineyard?
It was the immigrants about Martha's Vineyard, but of course I lost my train of thought. Usually this is the part that we would cut out because it's like, oh, burnout.
Oh, that's right.
But we're live, baby.
We're
live,
live
Talk about
now.
it.
That's just the entire
Bueno, we were just
hypocrisy
talking
of it.
about
How
the
about the fact
hypocrisy.
that they're trying to charge DeSantis with human trafficking? It's
That's
the
right.
projection.
It's the projection for me.
It's the projection.
Let me
Wow,
just
I
say
didn't
something.
hear that one.
Oh,
The
yeah?
party of
That's
open
that's
doors.
slick, bro.
So
That's
Thomas
slick.
Kennedy.
Thomas Kennedy.
It's Thomas Kennedy
Local
is
communist.
our local communist. I bother him all the time on the DM. If he ever leaks my DMs, please know that I mean everything that I say about Thomas Kennedy, including asking about his dick size. And Thomas is gonna come out when I'm like, Mayor, he's like, wake up when Linda was asking me how big my dick was one time, and I'm like, yeah.
Did y'all-
Thomas should also know that he has an open invitation to come on most
That's right.
for Latinas
Thomas, if you're
whenever
watching
he
this.
wants.
Hey, but I'm assuming he didn't answer.
No, of course he does. We go back and forth all the time.
No,
I fight with
his
him.
dick size.
No, he told me I was weird. He's like, why are you
So
guys so
weird.
obsessed with like dick sizes? I'm like, because, bro, like
So tell me how fat your pussy is. If you're not gonna tell me, what do you have a nub?
I just like bother him all the time. But anyways, Thomas Kennedy is it's like a known provocateur. Like he like crashes DeSantis' event. So now he's like banned from going to any DeSantis event because that's what he does, right? So he's not a journalist. Now
What
he
a life.
now he identifies as a journalist, but today
Well, he also
Today.
said he described journalism as journalists do not have to be unbiased.
yeah, they could
That
be
was
yeah,
his definition. They could have
He
political
literally
bias.
said that.
Yeah, he tweeted that. It's still out there on his page.
What happened to the code of ethics, guy?
No, there
Just
is
out
no
the
code of
window.
ethics.
What was it?
First
What
one
was it
now.
again?
He said that you didn't have to be unbiased to be a journalist. That he had an agenda, which in this case is a communist agenda. But anyways, Thomas Kennedy, he also works with Occupy Democrats. So he's been flying planes wherever DeSantis has been the last 2 weeks. They've been taking these trucks and they've also been flying planes. So one of the planes that they flew this week said DeSantis is a human trafficker. Because they're accusing him of trafficking these people,
Didn't
even
he-
though they have to sign a waiver.
That was just gonna bring that up. Yeah. They sign waivers.
They sign waivers.
Yeah, they signed the
Yeah, they
waiver.
sign waivers.
But they're claiming that somehow Christina Pusha was at the border. They're claiming that
That's
Christina
right.
They
Pusha
gave
was
them
at the
English applications. They gave them English waivers.
They got, you know
Well, they
what's
also
another
have
thing
Spanish
though?
ones.
I'm
That-
kidding, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like
When
they
you look at
just
the actual pamphlet, so they claim that nothing on the it's like, oh, they put all these fake programs on the pamphlet in order to
Right.
get people out there.
Mhm.
Every single program is actually offered in the state.
Right, it's part of the state. So
It's
they
part
gave
of-
them,
right.
yeah, they gave them a little thing that said like these are all the benefits
Yeah.
that you can get as a refugee and you go to Martha's Vineyard, which is part of the state of Massachusetts. And now they're saying that is all propaganda. It's not propaganda. It's actually part of their state's website,
for sure.
which they offer because they're a sanctuary state. So that 80% of that island voted for Biden. 80% of the island. And Massachusetts, it's a huge blue state, is
Right.
it?
Yeah.
But they don't want to they don't want to be bothered with the problem of illegals. They just want the poor Mexicans who are at the border, because there's a lot of Mexicans, like Mexican Americans who have farms at the border. This week, we saw a video. I think, did you see it? Was it you that I talked to? It was
No, I
somebody
don't think
else.
so.
There's a video going around right now of a Mexican farmer who has like a few properties on the farm, like his dad.
Yeah.
And there's 3 like illegals that like you see them running through because
the
his
farm?
yeah, because the farm is at the border.
Right at the border.
Right at the
so they
border.
run through his property and
Right.
try to enter his house to hide.
His dad's
They
house.
entered
the
his
fuck
house first,
out.
and then their
Yeah.
doors were locked. And then
Right.
they ran next door to his dad's house and went in. And he's got all of this on video. It's recorded. It's like, this is what the border towns have to deal with every single day. And we've got friends at the border. Natalie's at the border.
Right.
Jorge Ventura's at the border. And we're not talking about 50 people a day. We're talking about thousands of
Thousands.
people coming in
Thousands,
through our
hundreds.
open border daily. Thousands of illegal immigrants crossing our border daily, putting their lives in danger to illegally cross the border, which is
Right.
probably the saddest and most
Well, they
Hey,
don't-
but that's the collateral damage. Okay, hey, listen, if he gets robbed, fuck it, we got 2 more votes there.
Yeah, they don't go.
I mean, that's the way that they absolutely see
That's
it. To them,
absolutely.
it's all,
I mean, that's collateral damage. Oh,
it's all about
if
votes.
one white person has to die for 10 immigrants to come over the border and be Democrats,
So
who cares, right?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that, like earlier in the podcast, I said there's been these counties in the border that flipped Republican. Why is that? Because they're the ones that are predominantly affected by
yeah.
these
They're sick of the
illegals.
shit.
And
yeah.
the majority of them are Latinos, are Mexican Americans. So what are they, bigots? Are they racist? Because you don't want people literally running through your property. What if your daughter is playing outside and it's not a good person? Because here's the thing. They don't want us to say, they've always had a problem when Trump said it, that there's rapists coming through the border,
Right.
that there's criminals coming through the border,
Uh-huh.
because it's categorizing and generalizing all Mexicans.
Xenophobic.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, the border's clearly going to
man.
be an unsecure border.
All
It's clearly
Mexicans
gonna
are
be the
awesome,
best
bro.
place for drug dealers and all sorts of pedidumbre to come.
Fuck out of here.
Exactly.
Listen, hey, and Mariel was the same kind of shit. It was an exodus of all the shit Cubans that existed.
Which, by the way, they're doing that in
They're doing that
Venezuela
now.
right
Of
now.
course.
They're
So for
raising
those of you that
people
are
from jail.
unaware, during the 80s, there was a mass exodus out of Cuba into the streets of Miami, which leads to the deadliest time in Florida's history, which is when Cuba freed their jails, their mental institutions, and sent all of those people with well-meaning immigrants on a boat over here in order to destabilize as revenge.
That's what
almost.
they do.
They're like, all right, you guys want to leave? No problem. Does the United States want you? All right, they're going to take you. But we're going to make sure to create a problem for them. And it led to the deadliest time in Florida's
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, specifically
don't-
Miami.
And specifically here in
Yeah.
Miami.
You know, actually,
because
now,
Miami.
Because
now-
Miami.
because Miami. Now we've actually exceeded statistically the number of Cubans that have came into Miami right now in this period than before in the Mariel. We've surpassed that number.
Wow.
Wait,
That's how many.
what?
So many Cubans are coming in. I think it's
Through
the
the
time
border.
frame is like yeah
Through the border,
Through the
sorry.
yeah, there's a
border.
bunch of them that are
Absolutely.
It's
going.
exceeded.
Border
It's exceeded the amount
in
of
the
people.
coast here or
Mexico,
Mexico?
border, son.
Yeah, it's exceeded the amount of people that
Because they
came
can
from the Mariel.
because they can fly to Nicaragua. since it's another communist country. They can fly to Nicaragua and then make the trip all the way to the border. That's what they've been
you
doing.
kidding me?
No,
Wow.
Oh, it's
legit.
happening. It's
Yeah.
happening.
That's why the border,
Yeah.
like they've gotten people from like China at the border, Africa. Like there's so many people from
No,
other
that yeah,
countries
I knew, but I
that
didn't know
fly
it
to
was-
Mexico and
Cubans in
and walk
particular
into
were
it.
doing
it
that.
too.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it. Why not? Even if you live somewhere in Europe,
Yeah.
in Eastern Europe,
And you,
and you're in the middle of a
Look
war
at-
zone, why
Fuck
not
that
fly
90
to whatever
fuck that
South
90 mile
American?
trip, dog.
well,
Fuck that 90 mile trip.
Yeah,
I'm
why
telling
would
you.
anybody do that when you can just walk through the border?
Yeah, it's way more dangerous to tirar ahí in the middle
in
of
the
the night.
middle of
I
the
mean,
ocean.
I
the
would say
raft
that.
and shit.
I would say so. At least if you fuck up, if you get caught in Mexico, you get another. They give you another chance. They
100%.
deport you. You get to
Yeah.
do it
Right.
again.
It's it's incredible. The four of us here, there's a perception that people have of Latinos, and
I'm
I
the
think
only immigrant, by the way, right?
yeah, you're
Everybody
the. I
was-
think you're the. All of us
Yeah.
were born
Yeah.
here except
We're
Linda.
all Cubans, but nació aquí.
But we're here in Miami, which I think makes it very different because I think that the media likes to characterizes Latinos by the Mexican American Latino that you will find in California or in Texas, which clearly we do have Mexicans that exist, but
Right.
there's a lot of differences in Latino culture based off where it is that you come from. And it's
Right.
why the Democrats don't really know what to do with South Florida other than to try and discredit us as much as they can, because South Florida
It's a
is made up
melting pot.
predominantly of Latinos that have escaped communism. And because they've escaped communism, their perception of the world around them is very different than somebody that's crossing the border.
Right.
That's illegally crossing the border.
And also, what a lot of people don't take into consideration is that things have drastically changed since like the 50s and 60s when it comes to immigration. So why are there so many people coming to the border seeking asylum, even though the majority of them don't actually meet any of the requirements for asylum? They're just here because they're poor, right?
Democratic propaganda.
Exactly. And economic opportunity is not something that you can claim as a refugee. They don't say that though. They'll say something else. They're going to get kidnapped or
Right.
whatever. But that's not, you can't claim asylum because you're poor, right? That you just can't. It has to
That's
be
be a
like-
persecution.
it has to be
Yeah,
a persecution,
religion,
religion, political, etc. So now they've understand all these loopholes. When they talk about human trafficking, they forget that Obama and Biden, because of their shitty immigration policies, 90,000 kids were placed in the hands of human traffickers during the Obama administration. 90,000 kids. Why was that? Because there was all these teenagers. You guys remember there was a time in like 2014 that there was a bunch of teenagers, like especially men coming to the border, rushing to the border. It was kids from like 10 years old to like 17. They were all underage.
Yep.
When all these kids come here to the border, we have to take him in. We have a law to protect these kids from like human trafficking. We take him in, we process them. They go to the Office of Refugee and Resettlement, and then somebody claims them, right? And because it's the government and everything is fucked, all the people that were claiming these kids weren't actually their family members. So the government lost track of like 90,000 kids. Some of these kids ended up going to farms. They were exploited for labor. Some of them exploited for sex. There's cases. I mean, some of these are federal cases. This isn't like a conspiracy to like blame Obama, Biden. They're like eating
Yeah,
children.
there's documentation.
No, like there's documentation.
Right.
A famous case is the egg farm case. Look it up. All these kids ended up in Ohio. They found a bunch of these South American kids working at an egg farm in Ohio in really poor conditions. They were
It's
locked
fucking
up
crazy,
in a
bro.
they were locked up in a trailer. One of
Mhm.
these disgusting, taking literal like human feces all around them. How did they do it? The bad people here, because they know the immigration laws, they go over to Nicaragua, they go over to El Salvador and all these places, and they say, hey, Marcos, you're super poor. You live in a little village in the middle of nowhere. Hey, your kid, he's 11 years old. Just have him make the trip to the border. We're going to wait for him there. He's going to have education. He's going to have a job. He's going to have housing. And you're poor and you don't know any better. And you think that this person's going to help your kid. Your kid crosses the border. He ends up trafficked. Now, they're threatening the kid. If you don't work, we're going to kill your parent.
Right.
So that was a whole like federal investigation, all because of these failed immigration policies by the Democratic Party.
Wow, that's insane. Have you?
Well
And then
documented.
they
That's
call it,
ridiculous.
but when you talk about it, they'll call it QAnon, right? They're like, oh, sex trafficking at the border, you lunatic conspiracy theorist. They call Donna Paulina a conspiracy theorist, and then QAnon for discussing a true. This is real. Anybody who spends time at the border, again, we have friends that are at the border reporting live from there. They find little kids' underwear all the time.
Right.
Isn't it
Women,
crazy
with-
how
women.
Grown men coming into the border, several grown men coming into the border with children, and then somehow 20 of them, all with kids, and you ask them, where are the mothers of these children? Oh, they left them behind. All these mothers just left their children
and the liberal
behind.
media
Well, they
just
have
labels
also
it
found
misinformation.
they have
Correct.
also found that they sell the kids for $200
Yeah, so that's-
that you can come
that's
here.
the problem, and that's another thing. So, you know, people think, oh well, that's something that can't affect me. So how it will and can affect you is that since trafficking has become such a lucrative fucking business, any bum, think about any crackhead with nothing to lose on the street can get contracted to rob kids
To snatch up
for
a
$200 or $300 or $400. Imagine that bum is the one that preys on your kid one day, which by the way happens. what were the numbers? I remember this when we were doing the whole campaigning for the child trafficking. Isn't it 2,000 kids go missing every day?
That's
Yeah,
fucking
it's like
crazy.
And
kid a
the
minute.
hub for all of it is Miami.
Is it
By
really?
far, absolutely.
Portland's another big one.
Portland's a hub.
Atlanta
Atlanta
is
is a
big.
hub, but Miami is definitely
Yeah.
up there in
Without
the
a
trafficking
doubt.
numbers.
And just because of our location.
Right, the port and stuff like that. That's why Oregon's a big one. And
Right,
Yeah.
Atlanta
because
too.
of the port.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And it's not, it's clearly the biggest issue is definitely the idea of sex trafficking, right? But slave work is real in this country. They'll bring them in and they're like, all right,
work on
now
farms.
you own, now
Sure.
your coyote owns you. So now you're going to have to work these farms for $6 an hour slave wage. You don't have any papers. You don't have any authority. So now they can keep you there for the next 5-6 years working for $5 an hour, $6 an hour. And there's really nothing that you can do about it because who's there to be a voice for you?
No, it's
right?
ridiculous.
Because the Democrats that claim to care about these, that claim to care about these immigrants that are coming in through the border illegally, don't care about what happens to them after, which is always my argument. It's like,
That's what I was gonna say.
let all these people into the country for what? So that then they can get stuck working
No.
Yep,
slave
yep.
wages,
I
so
was-
that they don't have
100%.
papers,
So-
so they don't have anybody advocating for them.
I was just gonna get to that because it's funny, Democrats. We're talking about it's all propaganda, and it's just to paint this facade. Because again, Obama making it seem like he's doing something good for all these immigrants, but such an unorganized fucking plan that it ends up displacing thousands of kids who end up getting child trafficked. Look how it's something that you go one step forward, 9 steps back. Look at Gavin Newsom over there in fucking California with the electricity. Tells everybody by 2025 we're gonna be fucking full electric, bitch. We're fucking hard, man. So everybody prepares for it, goes and buys an electric car. Now he's asking everybody to turn off their fucking AC and put it at 78
You got.
after
Yeah.
9, to not take fucking showers, and to not charge your fucking car after 9 o'clock.
Because that's what happens when you give your freedoms away.
But
You
it-
depend on the government.
But it's the propaganda. It's
It's
just that
propaganda.
I don't
100%.
understand how everything they present to you is this fucking thing, and then it just ends up regressing everybody by twice as much that they promised it was going to benefit them.
Well, they just did it again. I think 2 episodes ago, we talked about DACA and how the Democrats are still keeping DACA over the heads of these. They're not kids anymore. They're like literally like 35 years old, some of them. But the reality is that when Obama created DACA illegally, because he didn't go through Congress, he said that this was not a pathway to citizenship, right? So he left them in limbo. It's like, yeah, you can be here, but you're not going to be legal. And there's no pathway for you to become a legal citizen. So you're always just going to be
A pawn to be used every 4 years.
And that
during
was that
election
was
time.
10 years ago. And when Trump became president, one of the first things he did in 2017, all he wanted was his wall. That's what he said. He wants, I want money for my wall. I want to secure the border. And we're going to make sure that these kids have a pathway to citizenship. X, Y, and Z was outlined. The Democrats said no. 3 times.
Because they want to be
Because
able to
they-
just bring it up and
correct,
string it along
correct.
as often as they want, whenever it is that they want.
They want it to be an issue.
You know,
It doesn't work if it gets solved.
there's a reason why our voices are there's a lot of efforts to silence us down here. I think that you're about to start
Look-
getting a lot more.
Look at the fucking Radio Mabi thing.
Yeah.
That was clearly a conservative Cuban exile radio station. It's been for decades. And what happens now? Latino women buy it out, but
It's George
what
Soros.
it's,
It's
it's
Soros.
the
actually
money
George
the
Soros.
money is funded by liberal communists.
Which goes back.
What are they gonna do?
Who represents the company? Who represents the company?
They just
Linda?
silenced all
Balsera,
those.
Sonia
Yeah,
Diaz.
they just
Balsera
silenced all of
Communications.
those voices.
It's important.
They're
People
done.
need to like when we talk about
T-
Balsera Communications, part of the reason why we're not going to shut up about it is because this isn't just a problem here
La
in Miami.
Frustrada.
Balsera Communications is one of the most, if not the most powerful political PR agency servicing the Hispanic market. So there's nobody politically that's moving around that wants to make waves with Latinos that isn't going through Balsera.
They worked with
basically.
Obama, no?
He was part of Obama's administration. He was
They're
his
in heavy with
Hispanic
the
media
DNC.
advisors.
That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
They're in heavy with the DNC.
With the DNC,
That's
I mean,
it.
and you can name all the deep state
All
actors,
them
and they're
puss
all
ass
connected
boys,
back to
all of them.
Balsera. And yeah, he was the media advisor for Barack Obama, and he was on Hillary's campaign. And if Hillary would have gotten elected, then he would have been on that
Con eso
media
lo dijiste
advisor
todo,
for
yeah.
that as well. And these are the people that are directly attacking the loud voices in Miami. You've been deplatformed. I've been deplatformed. They cannot, and we talked about this on the last episode, they cannot fight the information war because you don't have the truth on your side.
and you
So-
don't have you don't have
Right.
policies,
So you have
don't
to paint the
anything.
smoke and mirrors
You-
to keep the fucking story going.
And part of that
That's all it
is
is.
by
Which is the very
silencing
fucking
the
foundation
more
of their party.
influential
Yeah.
voices. So when you're out there speaking truth, like you can try and make us sound like wackos anymore, particularly me. You can make me sound like a QAnon flat earth wacko all you want. At the end of the day, the stuff that I talk about is backed up by truth. So people listen to me. And that's a huge problem for them. We're a huge problem for them. You know, the shift that we've seen in politics down here in Miami, Florida, very much has to do with the influence of loud voices like ours going out there and pushing like, yo, we don't need to buy this narrative. We don't need to be victims. Like this
Right.
is,
And
we
more
don't-
importantly, that people are agreeing and it's resonating.
yeah.
It is resonating.
That's how bad the situation is. That
Well, that's why Billy
The
Corbin hates us
disinformation,
because
of
nobody
course.
likes him. You know,
Of course.
nobody likes somebody that's constantly crying and being
steers-
a victim, and then
it steers
goes
away from her
to
narrative.
the Forward, which is a Jewish newspaper, to go cry. Oh, Carol, you call me by my real name, William Cohen. Oh, he's an anti-Semite. Like nobody likes that.
He's a
It's
fucking
fucking
pussy
pathetic.
for everything. He
It's-
screams
it's- it's-
anti-Semite,
it's-
anti-Semite for everything. The fuck out of here, dog.
And that's
Una mariconería.
that's a
Like,
real-
anti-Semite.
that's a
Yeah.
real big problem with people like Corbyn because they like to use their ethnicity or religion. Because I don't even think I think it's more of an identity for him. Is that actually like he's actually a practicing
Wow.
Jewish person. But he likes to use that and able to silence
it's
his
his card.
opponents.
Yeah, it's his card.
It's his opponents.
Well, I
He
mean,
calls you an anti-Semite. He knows
For
that's
anything.
the worst thing that you be called in the world. It's an anti-Semite. Then you lose credibility.
Right.
He tries to ruin your
and
reputation.
you get the scarlet letter
And
on you. That's
exactly,
it.
and then you
marked.
can't ever criticize him, and that's what he's been doing, and
then
how he gets
does
away with
that
it.
to also cloak his hatred of Christians.
Right.
He hates
He
people that
hates
believe
Christians.
in
He
God. He
hates
hates people that
Christians.
believe in Jesus. And he
Wait,
hates it.
Before we go on, for those of you who don't know who Billy Corbin is, his actual name is William Cohen. He's about 44 years old. He's the filmmaker behind Cocaine's Cowboy. Huge grifter of the Latino community, a huge communist, even though he says he's not a communist, he is a communist. And so he likes to silence Latinos here in Miami, particularly some of us in this group. And Corbin is someone that is an out like racist against our people, but he gets away with it because of his identity, right? So he's able to cloak his hatred and racism specifically towards Cuban Americans in Miami. In fact, I listened to this like 45-minute interview of Corbin about 2 weeks ago. And I mean, the way that he expresses himself about the Cuban suffrage, about what they lived, is just absolutely disgusting. You know, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
He's
no,
out
he
there.
doesn't make his disdain for the Cuban culture a secret. And then he thinks, just like Jenny Lee, that because, sorry, we know that that's your friend, but let it be clear.
No me metan en el potaje.
Sorry, a nosotros vamos a meter a
La
Josué en el potaje. We know the higher loyalty. Anyways, all that to say that it's the same thing where these are people that are profiting off a culture that is very heavily tied to politics. Cuban culture is tied very much to the political damage that communism caused them. So you cannot disconnect, like, as much as the Patria Vida grifters want to do that, you can't disconnect the croquetas and the cafecito and the Willy Chirino from the cause, which is that it
Absolutely.
is political. These people that are living here in an exilio, the reason why you have ventanitas is because our families had to flee a communist country in order to do that. And there's a lot of pain involved with that.
But that's what he's pissed about. That's what he's pissed about. Corbin is pissed about. Corbin is pissed that this used to be his little sanctuary here in Miami Beach. He grew up on Miami Beach, and then came Cubans. And took over the whole fucking city, and that's where his spite, lies. That's real shit. I mean, he says it himself.
Bro, every time that I post
he
something
wanted to
about
be a child
Corbin,
star.
yes.
His parents say, because, and then you want to talk about a fucking privileged motherfucker. This guy's here
100%.
talking about this person's
100%.
privileged person. He literally goes out. You can hear him talking about, my parents moved me out to California, and then that's where I changed my name. I changed my name to Corbin because I was getting typecasted.
Yeah, he wanted to be more ethnic.
You imagine seeing that little pussy boy on Growing Pains? I could. I could put a little. So then that fucking failed miserably. And he said, Coño, what does the ugly kid do? He goes and produces. And by the way, props. I do like your work. But that's what he does.
I hate when people say that too.
But
now he
it's
expresses.
true.
No,
I
I
will
agree.
You can't take that
literally
away.
bleach my eyeballs before I watch a Billy Corbin documentary.
No, now I shit on him.
I would
Yeah.
literally.
shit on that.
Now it's like,
fucking
don't
out.
support
But
him.
you know
He
what?
got me for
It's
like
not
3
You
documentaries.
tried to support him. You defended him so much.
Yeah,
You're
I
like,
did.
oh, I play political. I
Yeah.
like defending
And
Billy
it got to the point where now I hate the motherfucker.
But
I
he's been
cannot
a
stand
fuck,
him.
hey, but he's been listen. He's been a little fuck boy for years on end.
Yeah,
But
100%.
now the last maybe 3 or 4, because he was always heavy on the local politics. And look,
People
that's
like
one thing one thing I agree with the guy on the local politics, because la verdad que yo me limpio el culo with fucking Suarez to a good extent as well. But
I think we all do in this table.
yeah. But as far as Corbin goes,
He's not on my top list of enemies. Suarez isn't on my top list of enemies by any.
I tolerate him.
He makes the
Yeah,
list though. At the bottom of the list. But
I tolerate a lot of things from him because he's just the lot of that I see is
he's
just
a rhino
botanita,
guy. He's a rhino.
botanita, like
he's a
the
fake ass
vibe,
Republican.
right?
He's a
100%.
fake ass Republican, though.
He's every Democrat's favorite Republican.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he's every Democrat's favorite
Exactly. What
Republican.
does that say about him?
But he's nowhere on the list of people that I hate that like
No, there's
really grind my
there's
gears
a lot of
in Miami.
insufferables.
Yeah,
No, but Corbin's
Corbin's at the top of that.
But you know
Yeah,
what?
he's
It's
a-
not lost on the Cuban community how much the hatred he has towards them. Because every time that I post anything about Corbin, nothing positive, my DMs blow up.
Yeah,
Esa
everybody
bingo,
hates
I don't think enough people know yet.
fuck this
I don't
guy.
think enough
But that's-
people
but
know
he-
A
yet.
lot of people
Because
know though.
again,
Do you
I
think-
feel like he threads that very thin line where he's like, "Oh, I'm just a Democrat." It's like, no,
No, you're not.
You
You're
are a communist
You're a
anarchist,
communist.
is
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
are, and you know
Uh-huh.
very well that if you unleash that political ideology on your main page, you'd lose your following immediately because you
Right.
cannot exist in Miami
Absolutely.
as an open Marxist. That's why
Absolutely.
you have to hide behind it.
and that's why I think he's so
Antifa
bitch made.
page.
He's so bitch made. He comes after me when I'm here openly telling you how I fucking feel, and he won't.
He won't.
He won't
That's
tell
what
you how
he
I feel.
knows.
He hides behind his
Antifa
little
page.
lawyer's fucking pussy ass page, the plantain, that
Oh yeah.
pussy ass page.
And
Get the
because
fuck out of
Miami-
here. The plantain. Look, just another white
Probably watching
person
right now.
who's out of touch. Why would you call it the plantain? Because you're in Miami and you're around Hispanics. The plantain.
Well, I think that's the bigger narrative that
We're
people don't talk
bottom
about,
out.
which is that Billy is a white man censoring minority voices.
Yeah.
He is a privileged
Listen to me.
white man that thinks that his ideology is somehow superior to be able to silence the First Amendment. The minorities have to exist in this country. It screams white superiority.
100%. And listen, he considers himself the bastion of like supporting minorities.
Yeah.
But the
He loves the
motherfucker,
tranny kids.
Yeah,
the motherfucker went
He
and
loves those
was
tranny
literally just he literally went after. He took advantage of the whole situation when I posted about the rioters.
Okay, hold on. This is the part where
Is that a
because our followers don't know everything. But okay, so we told you guys who Billy Corbin is. Marcus is gonna tell him how he's been a victim of Billy Corbin.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you've been a victim of Billy Corbin.
Me.
Now tell your story, sir.
You got
This
my
is-
Twitter
no,
space.
no, no,
You
tell
guys
your
want water?
story. Water. This is a safe space, sir.
Tell us your
Tell us
survival
about your
story.
trauma. Tell us about your trauma.
My name is Marcos, and
Hi, Marcos.
my name is Uncle Mayo. Yeah, got that water porque that cava me cegó la boca.
No, it's supposed
Venga.
to.
It's supposed to,
Is there
yeah.
still some? Don't throw it away.
You gotta put
I
water.
feel like I
in
The
the
smoked
bottom is the
three
good part. You're
joints
supposed to
back to
swish
back.
it around.
Thank you so much.
This
Okay,
episode is sponsored
take it
by
from the top.
The Purple Lotus.
the Purple Lotus, which got taken by
That's another conversation to have, Mark Diego. We'll get to you.
We'll
So
get to you later.
Take it from the top here. I was very outspoken when
January 6th.
Trump's campaign and after Trump's election during his presidency. I became one of the bigger political voices down here in Miami, period. When I was on a trip with one of my exes in Orlando, I got a call because, and I'm starting here because I know that he concocted the whole thing. I noticed, in hindsight,
We
but
built it up.
afterwards I go, oh my God, this guy was doing this. He was organizing this the whole time. I get a call while I'm on a fucking trip to Orlando. I'm already on the way back and I'm walking into breakfast and I get a call. Y es un indio, pero un indio from real India. And he's like, hey, I'm a reporter. I'm a journalist for the Miami Herald and I'm stationed for the Miami Herald, but I'm stationed in DC. I wanted to call you with a couple questions about the PPP loans that you got. I'm like, what? So I'm like, all right, here we go with the fucking puss ass drama. Hey, a mí la pinga. I told him right away, hell yeah, ask me whatever you want. And he goes, did you get a PPP loans? I said, yeah. And all the information that he asked me was 100% true. So basically, this guy was calling me because he realized they looked up. I don't know how he chose me specifically, but he was writing an article on 3 people that got PPP loans and weren't supposed to get them because they were driving, because they had a suspended driver's license. In other words, I applied for the PPP loans legally, and I got issued the PPP loans, but during that time, I had a suspended driver's license, and that was technically against the rules at the time, but the government had issued me the fucking loan. Whatever,
Because it was fucking Trump daddy, bro. He wanted everybody to get the bag.
So fucking I answer all of Buddy's questions. A couple weeks later, the article drops explaining literally that I got the amount of the fucking loans that I got and saying he was not supposed to get them because, again, being a fucking puss ass snitch.
Right.
He wasn't supposed to get him. His driving license was suspended. Okay, so article drops. No one hears about it. I got one call from a lawyer of another comedian there that only person that heard about it. Rolls around fucking January 6th with the rioters. I come out talking about how I thought that it was that I respect those motherfuckers taking their grievances to the government's doorstep. Again, I never once advocated for fucking violence, but I completely praised the Capitol rioters for going there and filing their grievances with the fucking actual government as opposed to burning down their entire fucking communities,
Which Billy Corbin
like the
agrees
left,
with.
like the left is totally fucking fine with. Cause chaos until fucking something happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's cuck shit, which is very within his fucking behavior. I think that it was raw that they, until obviously the violence broke out, then I don't know. I don't condone anything that went past that. Needless to say, when I posted that video on Instagram, Billy, the bitch, like a little cuck, goes and pulls up the article that was written about me. And that's when I kind of fucking put two and two together. I
Oh,
go,
it was him.
He got this guy to write the article so that later he can fucking circulate it.
I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Thinking that I was gonna take me down. No, I responded to fucking Billy
He's
the bitch.
conniving. He's like that.
He's a pussy ass
He is
motherfucker. They're all
conniving.
organized. I'll give you that much. You're organized, but you came after a comedian, pussy boy. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Go continue to go after politicians.
there's a
No,
really
he's
good
coming
point
after
that
us
you
now.
made.
But wait,
Because
wait.
he's a
Continue.
fucking, yeah.
So then,
So at that point, I respond to Billy, which is, by the way, that's where Billy the bitch came from. I called him Billy the bitch on that video that I responded to him in, and then the Miami Beach City Commissioner went on his page
It's like,
and
Areola.
called him,
Ricky
yeah,
Areola.
and called him Billy the bitch.
Yeah, they hate each other.
everybody hates Billy. bro.
everybody
this is
hates
true.
Billy.
And then NBC6 News cropped out the comment. Miami Beach City Commissioner calls Billy Corbin Billy the bitch. So obviously I fucking went ham. And bro, for weeks, that guy, every post he posted, Billy the bitch, Billy the beta, Billy the cuck, everything,
Yeah,
all
everybody.
his comments. So then that's when he got his little fucking pussies in a bunch. And he had me right after that is when I got deleted.
Well,
Yeah.
because this is how they
Like
work,
a
and it's a good point that
bitch.
you
Shut up.
brought up because I've actually, like, for the last couple of days, like an absolute schizophrenic that I am when it comes to the research. You know, the link that we found here in Miami, which is that Antifa isn't actually Antifa, right? So you've got the people on the street, the activists, the true activists, and then you've got them being radicalized by journalists. The people who run the local Antifa page are people that are connected to journalism. Billy can be upset at you and tell anybody to write an article about you. And in order to discredit you, Jenny Lee's actually the perfect example of that. Jenny Lee got mad
That's what
that
they
some influencer, some fat influencer unfollowed her because she wasn't fat enough. And Jenny Lee went on Perez Hilton on the Miami New Times and weaponized all of her PR influence to cancel this lady because they had unfollowed her. So it's what they do. They weaponize their connections with the media because make no mistake,
Mhm.
the media is Antifa. When you see these Antifa pages that get boosted by these blue checkmark people and these journalists and these authors, this
It's all
is
coordinated.
It's all a network.
It's all
network.
it's all
It's all
that
a
it is.
network.
Coordinated, absolutely.
People have always wondered for such a long time. George Soros funds Antifa, right? These are things that you've always heard be discussed as conspiracy theories. But the truth of the matter is that Soros funds the media, and the media is Antifa. These are the people that are projecting them. When the local Antifa page first popped up here in Miami, before they even had 100 followers, before they even had they had less than 1,000 followers, they were already getting mentioned in big name publications,
Right.
not
I
just the
wonder
Miami
how.
New Times.
Yeah, it's because of
Right.
Billy Corbin and his
and
connection with the media.
Sonia Diaz and Balsera Communications and weaponizing all of their media contacts, no different than we're all friends. They're all friends.
That's the whole point
They're
of
all a
PR.
bunch of
It's the
frustrated
connections that you
yelpers that
have.
got
That's how you
together.
get people to put. You maintain those relationships. You water them. You nurture them. So whenever you have something you want to talk about, aquí tiene.
That's why right
What's
now, today, mark the date, we're starting the coalition. We're starting the
Latino
coalition. We're starting the Latino
Yeah, but we have
coalition,
to
the
fucking cut our hands with blood
anti-communist.
and shake
We're not doing all
hands.
that. But it is the anti-communist coalition. Why? Because for a very long time, the influencers and the voices that have represented Miami don't want to talk about the issues that affect Miami, which is that anywhere in the United States, if they accept communism, it's a shame. We've been infiltrated. We've been subverted. I get that. But not here in Miami.
Absolutely not.
Because we're supposed to know better.
Yep.
Our universities are supposed to know better. Our institutions are supposed to know better. This is the one place in the United States where it should be offensive to even think that it's okay to have a communist ideology.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Well, now I told Bella earlier today that I found out that FIU and UM, they have like Young Socialists for America, like clubs. Like, you know, there's like socialist clubs at these universities here in Miami. It's like when I was in college, that did not exist.
FIU.
Yeah,
FIU
I will-
was at their
I will-
50th anniversary. They were
FIU
bringing in
has
some
it.
communists from the regime or some shit like
Oh
that.
no.
I will
Yep.
say that much, that I had no clue that that communism was such a growing,
Like a
movement.
widespread
A growing-
issue.
a
Here's the
growing-
thing,
yeah.
though.
A
I
growing
think
cancer.
it's always been present. It was just never above the surface because of how looked up down upon it was.
I can
but
agree with
now
that.
there's acceptance for
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
there
there's
is.
Because it's
sympathizers.
socialism.
No, it's
So now
toleration.
it can rise above and peek its little head, and it's okay to, you know, like a groundhog
Right.
type of
Let's
thing.
be honest. Let's be honest. The reason why people like yourself, right? You'd say you're a moderate, you supported the Democrats. I used to support the Democrats
Yep.
as well. Because, and you said it earlier too, there's a lot of valid points to some of the things that liberals say, but what we never
I wouldn't say a lot. I'd say some.
Whatever,
handful.
some, but you know, what I'm trying to say is that there are things that we can agree when it comes to or we would look at their social causes and say, that makes sense.
I can find a
Yeah.
common ground
I
with
can
you.
find a common ground. Let's look at the police brutality against Blacks, right? A lot of people before COVID were back the blue, black the blue. We saw during COVID how the police turned against us,
Right.
as a whole. And then you had a lot of people say, hey, that's why, we have a problem with police. Now, I still support the police. I don't have a problem with police. I love the Miami police. I'll be honest, I've had most of my
Shout out to
interactions.
my MDPD, holla back.
Absolutely.
Let go.
Most of my
Hialeah
interactions with the city of Miami police and the other, municipalities have been very positive. And I think we saw that during the riots, especially the city of Miami, they handled it really well. Like, they weren't scared to be seen as
Absolutely.
we're beating up these kids. It's like, all right, fuck you. You want to fuck around? We're gonna toss you. You remember those
guys.
hot women?
chicks, they
The
were
hot
all hot
women.
Absolutely.
The
Fuck
hot women
yeah.
with their big
Oh, that was
asses,
like such
Fuck
a
yeah, I guess
representation of
Riga.
Miami.
Yeah.
Like, all these
Hey,
fine
Riga,
chicks with
take me to
body
jail.
slapping Tommies.
fucking body slam that just 100-pound Antifa, like,
Fuck
ah!
yeah. Put me in the
Get down.
paddy wagon. No,
You
hey, but
know-
listen, I will say this much though. I want to touch on that. It's overlooked. Miami, MDPD in general, not the beach, but MDPD should be the bastion. It should be like the role model, the model for every fucking, because listen, we are the only fucking police department in America, guaranteed, that 98% are fucking minority.
Yeah.
This is the only city in America
I never thought about that. but yeah,
where
sure.
98% of the fucking
good point.
force is minority, and we don't have that fucking problem. When have you seen riots here because of police brutality? I mean, don't get me wrong, does shit happen? Absolutely. But we don't have that fucking problem down here.
No.
The whole BLM, the police brutality. Miami should absolutely be a role model for the rest of the country in
In a
terms
lot
of
of
how
ways.
100%.
But
it's overlooked.
Here's where we go back to Corbin, because every single year, and I tracked it back, it's on a highlight in both of my accounts. Every single year since about 20 years ago, we've had the March Madness. What is the March Madness? It's when all these college kids, especially during spring break, they come down and they vuelven mierda la ciudad. They destroy our city. Everybody knows it's a problem. Democrats know it's a problem. Republicans know it's a problem. Okay. Things got way worse during the pandemic because they were renting Airbnbs for like $80 a night. So it was 10 people
because
in an
they closed down
Airbnb.
streets.
They closed
It
down
has $50
everything.
to fly out
I mean,
here.
these were national news that we had to call the SWAT team to intervene on South Beach because it got that bad. Nevertheless, every single year during Memorial Day weekend, we have the same problem. And all these headlines come out that there's police brutality. And guess who's behind them? Billy fucking Corbin.
Crying, yeah.
If you go back to his Twitter, you're going to see how the Miami New Times and the Herald attack our police, the Miami Beach police, the city of Miami police, and the police overall
And they frame
for
it-
being racist.
They frame it,
for
yeah,
being
as black
racist.
hate, as black.
They say it as black hate. Uncle
Yeah.
Luke wrote an article in 2020 or 2021 saying that he was inviting more people to come and swamp
That the
Miami
curfews
Beach
Yeah,
were
urban-
racist.
because they didn't want
Yeah.
black people here. That's how they phrase it, that the majority of white Latino population didn't want black people here. Our local blacks are not engaging in this behavior. I spoke to the police myself, and the majority of the people that were arrested in 2020 and
We're
2021
from out of town.
were
Out of
from out of
town.
town. They
Absolutely.
were from Detroit, they were from New York, they were from Atlanta. They're not Miamians. So who's behind it? Corbin with his media connections.
So
Absolutely,
allegedly,
without a
And
doubt.
why is that? Because he's been trying to frame Latinos, more specifically the white Cubans, as racist, as xenophobes, as anti-Semites. That's just what he does to fight his, to fight us, basically.
I've heard rumors that he allegedly sets up
Oh, yeah.
crises to then be able to report on them. So
Right.
like
I would,
you
I
know,
would.
crazy graffiti, hate
anti-Semitic.
graffiti, anti-Semitic graffiti,
Yeah.
things like that. Allegedly, I'm not saying it's
Allegedly.
true. I'm just saying allegedly, he's got connections to be able to create the storylines
I mean,
that
I
he then
wouldn't put
wants
that
to
past
go
him
out
for
and
a
push. No,
second.
absolutely not. That wasn't
He's an
shocked when I
absolute
heard that.
cuck.
He actually photoshopped, and I don't know where these ended up, but he actually photoshopped when Vince Lago, who's the mayor of Coral Gables, was running for office. He's a Republican, very moderate guy, nothing crazy, but it just the title Republican is a problem for
Yeah, he
the
called him an
socialists,
anti-Semite,
and
right?
Called him an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
He blamed some random graffiti in Coral Gables, which the guy had nothing to do with, but he said because he's basically a white Republican who's a racist and misogynist, yada yada. He blamed that graffiti on him, photoshopped them. So disgusting to do that, to Photoshop this man that has nothing to do with it in front of a graffiti that said all Jews are communists, or I don't know exactly.
Something terrible.
Right. Something
I would have sued
terrible.
his ass if that was me. Like, how are you
He's
going to
a ter-
Photoshop
he-
my
he's a
And you know
type
what?
of
You know what?
in
He
front
got
of
mad at
some
Lago. It
crime
wasn't
like
for
that?
no reason. It wasn't for no reason. Lago's kids went to a private school that had a post. Was it Mass or CRT?
No, it was the what you're gonna talk about is about the Frankfurt School, the critical race theory.
The critic.
and all
So it
that
was the
stuff. Yeah,
CRT. So Lago's children go to a private Catholic school, and they wanted to implement CRT into
diversity
the
and
curriculum.
equity, in the
Diversity and equity
curriculum,
into the curriculum. And the parents at this private school, they pay tons of money to send their kids to. Many signed a letter in support of like, we don't want CRT to be shown in the school. Anyways, that letter goes public and Vince Lago's name is on there. So that's what Billy then used to make him a target. This is what makes Billy a target to them. And these people are really disgusting with the things that they do. Jenny Lee is sorry again, I know she's your homegirl, but Jenny Lee ran with the story that Manny Diaz Jr. was a pedophile and a predator in a political hit job campaign that she orchestrated. That's why she was writing at the top
People are
of her
trash,
abilities
bro.
as PR, being able to control the narrative
Just
when she
trash-ass
gets
people.
pulled in to start working on Miami Anti-Fash because she had done such a great job with the hit job on Manny Diaz Jr. that logically they're going to bring her in to continue doing the work. But no one is better than Billy.
Yeah.
Because when the page went to shit, when we exposed it, that's when they brought Billy in full time.
They called him
for a while. Billy's been on the page for a while, but Billy's now full time on that page.
And I think that so if you guys are not keeping up with our other podcasts and what we talk about, there's been an anonymous Antifa page on Twitter, Miami Anti-Fash. They're probably listening to this right now. You guys can all go fuck yourselves. That has been doxing, intimidating, and harassing mostly conservatives and people that are active in the community.
Conservatives.
Only conservatives. I'm
Parents.
sorry.
Particularly
Parents who
efforts.
showed up to the school board protest. So how that all started was that last July, we had already gone to 2 school board meetings, I think in April, May, and June. And July, this page pops up after a very heated school board meeting Miami did in July. Right? That's what happened. And so this
in June, we had the very heated meeting in June.
The account starts trying to expose and give light to the far right of Miami.
Mind you, it's far right because they were opposing masks. So at this point, it's not even the conversation isn't CRT or gender ideology. The only thing that made these parents far right, according to these Antifa pages that were so concerned about fascists, but the only fascists they're concerned with are those that are talking in school board meetings, was what made you a fascist wasn't that the Patria Vida demonstrations were going on at the same exact time. So they could have gone to Versailles, thrown a pencil in the air, and they would have caught 500 fascists by their definition. No, they were only interested in those people opposing masks.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was
again, bro. These people, they're the Yelpers. These are like, what do you call it? Fucking glorified Yelpers. They're glorified fucking Yelpers, and you could tell that these are like the bitches that if they Yelp, they would be la frustrada. They're
I had to wait an extra 25
so she just went ham on it, and now she's fucking public relations, bro.
Well, so with this page, you know, I think that at first, if you're trying to expose the Proud Boys, Antifa and the Proud Boys have always had beef. Who cares? They're men. They can deal with it. Then they were trying to expose us, which is crazy because I'm a public figure. So my name is out there. My name has been out there for a very long time. I've been on Vice. I've been on MSNBC. I've been on Fox. I've been on Newsmax. So I'm not hiding from anybody. Like, it's not like I'm an anonymous page and then you made this big expose on who Linda is. And like, my job knows, like, I work for myself.
That's another thing that's so whack.
Right. Like, who are you exposing me to? Right. So when this happens, I'm like, all right, whatever, we're public figures. I guess this is what comes with the territory. But the problem is that then you go on to try to expose parents who are not public figures, are not influencers, they're just simply a parent who opposed the mask at the time. They did it to the lady Megan. If Antifa thinks we know Megan, we don't know her like that. We met her literally at the school board meetings. Lady, she has a closed Instagram. She has 2 kids, and she was opposing mask. They went on and they said, Megan, she has a business in Coral Gables. I wouldn't trust my grandparents at Granny's Nannies with an anti-maskers. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
And the worst
bro?
part of that
Like,
shit is that
are
you fucking
doing?
have to hide behind a page.
Mhm.
Man,
Yeah.
you
I'll
want
just
to do
say
that
that,
type
bro.
of shit?
Bro,
You
yeah.
want then
We are
put it
communists.
from your fucking
So
page.
You're a
soft.
communist
Como un
on your
hombre,
page.
like
You're
Y
so
como una mujer
soft.
bien puesta también.
Mhm.
you want to
So
do heinous shit, do it cara a
But
cara.
that's
Don't
how
hide
you know.
behind a fucking
Hey,
But that's
I
how you
was-
know it's Billy. Because
Yeah, of
he's that
course.
soft.
He is
He's the
that
guy
soft.
that's never been in a
Yeah.
physical altercation
He's
in
the
his
hall
life.
monitor at school.
Right.
That's what he is.
100%.
Yeah,
He's
but
the
so
hall
is-
monitor
He's
at
always
school.
been the
is Jenny.
snitch, bro.
But so is Jenny.
He's always been
But
the
so is
snitch.
Jenny. Y Jenny es la gatica María Ramos que tira la piedra.
Esconde la mano.
Right.
100%.
Y después se hace.
That's
the
exactly
goody
who
girl
they
with
are.
God, Miss 305, Miss Miami, Miss Hialeah. If people in Hialeah knew that you, my dear, are an open communist anarchist, nobody would fuck with you. They take away all your accolades, your little award from the city of Miami, your little recognition in the Miami-Dade Community College. All of that would be gone from one day to the next.
She
because you
tried to
guys know.
cancel, both her and Billy tried to cancel Cafe Bustelo for not acknowledging that she came up with 305 Cafecito time, which has literally been here in Miami since the first Cuban landed on this fucking peninsula,
and that's
whatever
the
we are.
Cafecito time is the same one that was tweeted by mistake on that bullshit account, right? That Miami fascist account.
Yeah,
Yes.
pero not by mistake.
Yes,
Ella
yes.
lo que la de
She, no,
nalate.
she didn't
Sorry,
remember.
aquel girl.
She didn't
Oh,
remember.
pero you're never gonna let him live this down. Pero para que sepa, Jenny, that he's loyal to you.
Hey, but
No me metan en potaje.
But let me ask you, but wasn't the deal that she thought she was logged on to
No, son.
Cafecito
She
305.
made a ton of mistakes. Ella lo que vivía en
She
el
made
alate,
mistakes.
and she thought that
Yeah.
nobody was gonna make the connection. So
Right.
she was doing her little, cross branding with her little things and dropping. Don't forget, tomorrow is Miami-Dade 305 Cafecito time. He said, "Chopalante" with the 3,000 other mistakes
Bullshit.
that she made.
Asshole.
Let's go back for a second to the misinformation, because so in 2020, Democrats
Right.
before the November
November 4th.
let's say like September, October, Democrats in Florida, they start seeing like, wait, we're not really polling that well with South Florida. Joe Biden's not doing great. We're kind of worried that South Florida is gonna vote for Trump, right? And predominantly Dade County, the Tri-County area, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, they always vote for a Democrat president. Hillary Clinton won by 30 points. Joe Biden only won by 13 points in South Florida. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. Trump got about an average of 100,000 more votes in Dade County. So what happens when they start panicking in September, October of 2020? They call in Obama. They brought in Obama. I don't know if you guys remember to go to Hialeah.
Jenny Lee brought in
Right,
Obama.
correct. Jenny Lee Molina, PR, is working with the Joe Biden campaign.
Frustrada.
Her role, as she states herself in an article for ABC News, is that she was part of an effort to combat Latino misinformation. What was she doing? She says herself in the article, managing several social media accounts to combat this so-called misinformation. Do you understand how this is her job? Like
Sure.
this is what Democrats do, and where
She's heavy in there.
Republicans fall very short. Like they're behind. Republicans don't do stuff like this. Democrats, because they project, they think that they do, but the reality is that the majority of, or especially the old school Republicans, are pussies. They have no balls.
And they do nothing.
They have no balls to say, we're going to hire X, Y, and Z through a PR agency or another agency and combat this misinformation.
Yep.
The Trump influencers, like many of us was an organic movement that he created. People like DC Drano with 2.5 million followers, people like Typical Liberal with 2 million followers, and all those other ones that fall under Officer Tatum, their Hostrand, all the way down to somebody like myself. We're all organic influencers and activists.
Because Trump's always been like the OG
Right,
influencer
right,
before
right.
social
Or
media.
influencing
Yeah,
was
before it was a
influencing.
thing. He always was.
Right.
Porque le rozó la papaya, bro. That's why. That's why. And that's why they never liked them. They had just come off fucking 8 years
Right.
of straight
You wanna
PC. They
look
thought it was
at-
going to be a handoff. Y aquí vino the
Pepe
orange guy
Pingu.
para repartir
Pepe
pinga.
Have you
Pingu.
guys seen the video that's been doing its rounds this week where they're basically exposing, I guess, a document that shows that Democrat influencers were getting paid like $400 to have to make
Oh, yeah.
anti-Republican,
Yeah.
anti-Trump, activist,
We
like
talk about
Republican
January
activism.
6th,
Because it's
talk
all
about January
propaganda.
6th,
They're
and all
paying them.
propaganda.
So the response, because this is something we talk about a lot, is that the right loves to cancel, right? So the response from the right is like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this, and then just sit around and then complain. All right, congratulations, you don't like that. There's only one solution.
Do
Pay
it.
The other side of the influencers.
The Democrats are not doing anything illegal by hiring these
Correct.
influencers to do it. This is all legal work through PR or marketing agencies. Very legal. You can do that. Even if it's unethical, even if it's propaganda, there's nothing that says
that
that
they can't do it.
that a political pact or a politician can hire a third party agency to do their dirty work. There's nothing. So Republicans and conservative and influencers can sit here and cry about it and be pissed off about it. But the reality is that instead of doing that, they should be doing the same thing. They should be hiring people influencers to do it. I just got another one when I was right now in St. Louis, Missouri. They showed me a screenshot, this model. They're looking for models. All right. Model influencers on social media for climate change propaganda. I have the
Because
screenshot.
listen, this is why the Democratic Party shit works, because they know how to wrap things up in a nice bow and present it to you.
Yeah, they
While
do.
the Republicans, these old fuckers, what's it you call it, dusty bones, or
The
whatever the fuck?
Dusties,
The
the
Dusties,
Dusties.
Mojón
they
with a
don't do
ribbon.
shit. No saben hacer nada. No te ponen ni a ribbon en el mojón. Te dan el mojón ahí sin a ribbon. You know
Es
what
que
I
no
mean?
saben is that they don't want to be with
Right.
the changing of the times because they don't want to
Right,
have
that makes
to
sense.
give up their power. I mean, Billy was, I had left a comment that said like the GOP, good luck trying to get the GOP to mess with you when you're QAnon or whatever. That's the QAnon is just my personal example. But the truth is that the GOP wants to maintain the same GOP that they had pre-COVID.
That's not going to
pre-Trump,
work. That's not going to work.
That doesn't exist anymore. So they don't want to give up the power. The truth is that GOP, the Republican Party is growing not because of the GOP.
No.
We don't have any support. The
No.
people that are out there truly driving the culture to get people into the Republican Party, those people are not recognized by the GOP because the GOP wants to remain in their dusty ways. They don't want to shake things up.
Big
That's
facts.
always been the problems with the
Big
Republicans.
facts.
I wanna be
Nobody
left
put culo with
alone.
the GOP.
We don't really want to shake things up.
That's not gonna work.
Let's just get back to
That's
normal.
not
And
gonna
that
work.
doesn't work anymore. You gotta break the mold.
Yep.
You gotta break the
100%,
mold.
bro. I'm
I don't
sick
And
and
we are
tired.
taking back
I
the
don't
culture. You
blame-
think
I'm
that
sick
it
and
was the
tired of the
GOP that's
GOP,
turning
bro.
Miami blue? You think that's
No.
turning Miami red? That's not the GOP. That's not the
Fuck
dusty
no.
Wait,
GOP.
hold on. Let's tell our followers really quickly before we tell the story. Actually, can you guys clarify what palapinga means and in the different ways and context that we can use it, so that a few of our gringo followers here
Well,
are able to use
Well,
it? maybe
pinga
somewhere
itself
else?
has very different definitions. It just depends on the
Well,
context.
translated, it's to the dick. But obviously in English, that doesn't make any sense. So palapinga will most correctly be translated to
Fuck
fuck
it.
that shit.
Fuck it.
Fuck that shit.
Or me voy pa.
My boy, because obviously, like a lot of other terms that has a bunch of different ways, forms of use.
Depending on the context.
Right.
And so fuck that shit can be one. Let's get the fuck out of here. Nos vamos pa la pinga. En casa la pinga.
En casa la pinga.
That means that's
Far as
very
fuck.
far.
Like butt fuck Egypt type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's really, it can be inserted
Oh,
at any point in time.
te vas pa la pinga.
Yeah, it could
Go
really,
fuck
and it's-
yourself.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of those words like fuck. You can really just put it in anywhere. You can like stub your toe against the bed and you can be like pinga.
And-
That would also work.
And obviously, I didn't clarify at the beginning. Pinga is a dick.
Yes.
We did un morrongazo, un tolete, but we didn't clarify it. So so everything is to the dick. Everything to the dick is pretty negative. So you don't want to hear it.
So with that being said,
Billy Corbin, vete pa la
vete pa la
pinga.
pinga. Jenny Molina, vete pa la pinga. So with that being said, obviously I'm Colombian, but I've been in this city enough that the Cuban slang like
It rubs
stuck to
off.
me, like rubs off.
So
But
somebody's like, we're muting. My ears are bleeding now. Way too many. There was way too many fingers dropped in a very short period.
Sorry.
To Christina, we're sorry.
Se
We're
mojaron.
sorry. Earmuffs for a little bit.
I'm sorry,
Oh, the guys are dry and the girls are wet.
There's what we get with caballo.
you know, when we're talking about the Dusties right now, you have all these Republican commissioners, you've had the mayors, you have all these people that are constantly, every single time there's a Patria Vida event, they're the first ones there to be in the crowd talking about communism, talking about fighting this, and they actually don't do anything. They don't do anything to stop the communism from coming. And this is where I was gonna tell you, Josue, about the canceling Cafe Havana.
Very important.
So how we not giving Jose that little push, you can tell the story to her followers and everybody that's listening. There was going to be a restaurant, a New York restaurant that's also grifting of the Latino culture, Mexican and Cuban culture. It's already open in New York. They have one in Malibu called Cafe Havana, right?
One in Japan as well.
One, right. So none of it's like a cool little Brooklyn place that you go get tacos and stuff like that, whatever.
Where they
and
mix
so-
Mexican and Cuban food, guy.
Right.
You don't do that.
right.
Fuck
so,
all that.
So
Corn. Why the hell is it a Cuban eat corn, bro?
So they were gonna open one here in Miami, and this guy, we are in a group chat together. We have a bunch of different group chats. So this guy texts us and says, "Can you believe that this restaurant?" One of my followers, and tell them the story about how we got Cafe Havana canceled.
One of my followers, which is a friend of mine too, sent me the article because he lives above where the prospective location was going to be. And so I guess he Googled it and then he started reading on the website and he shows me what the website says and all the
What did the website say?
fuck, I don't remember this time, but it was something about basically
inspired
by the location where Che Guevara and Fidel Castro met up in Mexico and discussed like the revolution and all that shit, like the inception of it. So it was rumored to be the birthplace of the Cuban Revolution. And then when you look at their website, they have a bunch of like memorabilia, like Comandante Biggie, and it's a picture of Biggie Smalls and like all this shit. And obviously, that trying to open that up in Miami is a big fucking no-no.
Right.
So I told them, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Like we just went back and forth, and they were like, "Do something about it." And I was like, "Should I? Should I not?" They gave me the push that I needed because I was skeptical about doing it, and I'm glad that I fucking did. Because long story short, the cafe is shut down. They're no longer opening up. And a lot of people gave me pushback because they were like, well, it's just a location, like it's just a restaurant. Right. Like, don't go there if you don't want to. No, you know why? Because then that sets a precedent that the newer generation of the Cuban Americans have forgotten. Oh, they don't care. You open one and you open a second one and a third one and a fourth one. Y a donde para? No, you cut it off
At the root. And here's the problem that a lot of the older generation, the people that did fight communism, the grandparents, your grandparents,
and they're the best ones because they're the ones outside with
so this older generation, which most of them still till this day are still flying Trump flags on the weekends. Every 100%. Once in a while, you'll catch them at La Carreta, you catch them at Versailles and Calle Ocho. These people are dying. Like, this is an older generation. Then you have their kids, and their kids maybe a little bit more involved, but not as passionate as their parents because their parents were the ones that brought them here. And then you have the grandkids who are you guys.
You're more disconnected like, generation by generation.
You're disconnected. So I think this Cafe Havana really, really, showed the Republican Party that has been grifting off the Patria Vida and anti-communist movement for the last 60 years or plus, God knows, kind of like, hey, we're going to cancel this shit at the root. Like, you guys want to play cancel culture? We're going to cancel you for a fact. And that restaurant's no longer opening. I don't know what, I've tried to reach out to their PR department.
The location is still.
I even DM'd the chef and like, he wouldn't like open up my DM. And I was like, hey, Luke, just like checking in on you. Like,
so
the lease is still signed. The lease is still signed by them, but the concept is no longer moving forward.
Right.
So I'm guessing eventually they'll open up something else there. I don't know.
Again, just another instance where they're just so fucking disconnected and naive to what a real minority experience is. What the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? Being so ignorant. Just listen, just like the fucking the Salt Bay.
Maduro. Good example.
Otro comunista. Posted up right here in the middle of fucking Miami. Brought over fucking Maduro has a picture with I think he has a picture with Maduro. Brought I don't know who. Where's the common sense? And I get it. Oh my God, you fucking glorify the the revolution, but what happened after the revolution, bro? Like, how is it that you're so stupid that you're gonna represent something that ended in such?
No,
I
and
think
people
a lot
gave,
of it is
people gave
ignorance.
the excuse too. Oh, maybe they're ignorant. Maybe they don't know. They have 3 locations and they've been open since 1998.
Right.
You would think from 1998 to present day, someone at one point, hey, Cubans don't
Well, they
exactly
changed their
like
website.
this,
Exactly.
right? They changed, or correct, they changed their website. So they went into it knowing what they were doing, pero embarajando la cosa.
But
You know what I mean? To
In
get
what
away
state?
with it.
In what state is ignorance a defense?
It isn't.
No, it
Just-
isn't.
It's like
You know what I've always, one of the things that was really shocking for me when I kind of had my transition where I'm like, oh shit, I'm not a Democrat. Like when I had that realization was, and I don't know about you guys, but when I grew up, there was nothing worse that you can be than a communist. In my
100%.
house,
Yeah.
like I knew that it's like, whoa, like there's like people that like kill babies, and then there's communists, and they're like almost the same, right? It was like they're hand in hand. So when I have my awakening, I'm like, okay, fine. I have my realization. I'm really not a Democrat at all. I'm a Republican. Is when I started realizing that the rest of the world doesn't, like us growing up Cuban and knowing el dolor cubano, if you will.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
grow up with that in your head where it's like, you cannot be a communist. Communism is bad. Communism is bad. Communism is bad. The United States does not teach that.
Mm-mm.
We know, to me, it was like shocking to realize that it's like, oh, people don't realize that communism is the worst thing ever. And it's
No.
because the education system doesn't do that.
Right.
Florida, once upon a time, used to teach anti-communism in schools. And it was
Really?
taken, it was taken off.
What year was it removed?
That's
do you
why
know?
DeSantis
I wanna
is
say in
bringing
the
it
80s.
back. That's why DeSantis is bringing
DeSantis is trying to bring it back.
Right.
Good.
Right. So and
Because this
and-
has to be the
and this
beacon.
is
We
this
have
is
to be
food
the
for thought. This
representation.
is food for thought for listeners right now. Is that look how many Hollywood films there are about the Holocaust, but not communism, right? And if we say, okay, yeah, Nazis are bad, Nazism is bad, this is an argument that many people have brought forward. It's like you should be treating communism in the same light,
Correct.
right? They've literally, I think it was during the Trump era, they took out one of the last living Nazis out of here. You remember they even took him out in a bed? Like the guy's so old that they had to bring one of those like stretchers to like take him back and like ship him out of nowhere. Like this is how far the US is willing to fight Nazism, but it's not the same when it comes to communism. And there's reasons why, which we're not going to get into them. But to me, it's like if you're gonna treat Nazism that way, where you can't talk about it, you know, it's forbidden. It should be the same treatment that communists get.
Absolutely.
There should be
I mean,
no young
technically-
socialists of America at FIU or at UM or at UF or at any college in the US, period.
Once upon a time, that wasn't
it's a
allowed.
party.
Being a communist
The
was
Nazi was a
illegal.
party.
Yeah.
Nazis were a fucking
Yeah.
party.
You know, if you're going to the FBI vault, you can look up the Beatles, you can look up Marilyn Monroe, and all of them were investigated for potentially being communist
Get the
and
fuck
being
out.
threats to them. Absolutely. Back then, communist, you could be a communist at home.
No, there was a big
Hiding
in
where your
Hollywood,
door locked.
there was a
Yeah,
huge
there was a
thing,
big
the black
thing.
You
list.
Because of
couldn't-
Russia, right?
You could, right? You
Mhm.
couldn't. Well, was it the
Right,
so was it
Cold-
the
it was
Yes,
the
yes,
Cold-
yes.
It was a Cold War. It was
The Cold War
USSR,
era,
right?
yeah.
It was
Then
a
you
Cold
could-
War
because
era.
at the
If
time,
you were
but
a
you
sympathist, if you sympathize with the communists out there, they blacklisted you.
You were a
right away.
potential threat. You were a political
Right?
threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
were on the
Remember that-
terrorist
that-
watch
that
list.
There's like an old picture of a protest. I don't know when it was that the guy. I think he has better dead than red. I think it's one of them, and the other one says the only good communist is a dead
dead one,
communist. Like
yeah.
you can't, if you did that in present
My
time,
grandpa would say that. Yeah.
if you
Political
showed up with a
extremist.
sign like that, you're an extremist.
You brought up a
You're an
good. You brought up a
extremist.
good point about the Nazi situation, because in my podcast when I was talking about Cafe Habana, I brought up the same comparison, because some people were telling me that it wasn't such a big deal.
Mhm.
Well, I gave the example. If on Surfside you opened up a cafe with pictures of Hitler and Nazi memorabilia, what would happen?
Right.
As
Immediately,
free speech.
it would
Papa.
it would pop.
Well,
up.
first of all, that's a hate
Pop.
crime.
Billy
That's
Corbin
a-
pops
that's-
up from
that's a
behind the
hate crime.
counter.
First
First of all, you wouldn't even get a lease.
100%.
You wouldn't even get a lease.
That's a
Billy
hate,
Corbin
that's
pops
a
up and
hate
goes,
crime.
because Miami.
So, with that being a hate crime, how is opening up a cafe in a community of Cuban exiles that had similar things happen to them on the island, oppression, lands taken away, massacres, all these nasty things, opening a cafe with Cuban Revolution memorabilia in their community, how is that not a hate crime?
It's a
Why is it
fantastic
not considered the
comparison, bro.
same?
That's a
I see no
fantastic
difference, and it's
comparison.
not a dick
Right.
measuring contest of
No.
who's most depressed.
Right,
It's
right,
not
right.
about that. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with that.
I want to bring up something else that a lot of people don't know. And, you know, Joe Biden just did this speech about semi-fascists and how the MAGA Republicans are the biggest threat to America. We've been hearing about white supremacy for the last 4 years. White supremacists are on the rise. White supremacists this, fascists, blah, blah, blah. A kid was just killed by a Democrat who just like Billy Corbin lives in the perpetual state that Nazis and that white supremacists are literally hunting down people. So if you guys saw the news, I forgot the kid's name, and I hate that I don't know his name right now, but it happened in North Dakota where there was an argument, a political argument between a 41-year-old man and an 18-year-old, and this 41-year-old man ran over this boy because he thought he was part of a Republican extremist group. Just 2 weeks ago, you had Joe Biden declaring that half the nation is a threat to everyone else.
I encourage
Encouraging people, emboldening,
dangerous.
Demonizing half the country.
Half the-
emboldening
more than
these
half.
people.
Mhm.
you guys
Right.
should go out there and look up a picture of this 18-year-old.
His name is Kaler. We'll put it up on the screen, I guess.
Guanajo.
This is live. I forget, but Kaler. I forget. I'm getting used to this. I was like, I know about it later. His name was Kaler Ellingson. Really a young man that had his whole life ahead of him, and because of a political dispute, this is where it is that we're at right now. And a lot of it has to do with
With the
when you
demonization
build
of
that rhetoric.
conservatives, when
You
you
build that
build-
rhetoric.
This
Let's be honest.
This is 2 weeks post, probably the most
Right.
divisive
Speech
speech
ever given.
that he painted 50% of the country as far right extremists.
And you're making and a danger to the other side. And you're
Uh-huh.
making a good point, which has only been a couple of weeks. Let me tell you something. When you look at the BLM riots, there was 2 Obama presidencies that led up to that. We became the hyper focus on racism after such a monumental moment of electing the first African
president.
American president to the
Twice.
United States.
Twice. White people did that.
By a large majority.
people did
And
that.
it's white people
White
did
people
that.
did that.
White people elected that man. And to have the result of that grow the race conflict even more, it's how you know that it's inorganic.
Absolutely.
It's how you know that
It's
it's not
true.
organic.
It's true.
It's, you know what I always think back to? What Super Bowl was it? Beyonce does
When she
her
does the Black Panther.
The Black Panther,
I
yeah.
feel like there was that moment. That
Something
moment
switched.
that moment set something else
Yeah.
off because it glorified the narrative that it's like I'm standing up to my
And it was all over the
oppressor.
media.
And it justified it made like a difference. Like it really made a distinction where it's like we don't want to sit with you.
Mhm.
I'm black and I don't want to sit with you because you're white. Like it started separating the country with again this fabricated narrative. You cannot say that a country that had just elected a black president 2 terms
Yep.
that country is racist. It was at its highest point of progression, and they couldn't have that
Listen,
because the division was necessary.
At the very least, it's definitely not a country that's regressing.
Right.
When it comes to race.
No, absolutely
It's
not.
a country that is listen, from the moment that I understood what a president was, any black person that I came across and any Hispanic that I came across always made it very clear. You will never see a black president in your entire life. Ever. I'm not even halfway through, hopefully. And we already had a black president that was voted in for 2 terms.
That
and
people love.
And I guarantee you,
People love.
a woman is
People
coming
love.
very
I
fucking
hope
soon.
not. I hope not.
I mean, well, that's
I hope
depends on the woman, in my opinion. Pero,
Yeah.
and you're gonna see plenty of more minorities. You will see.
Let me say something as the only person in this table that was not born here, and I still have memory of when I lived in Colombia because I didn't come here until I was 11 years old. The way that hold on. When I was coming back from my trip right now, one of the things that I was on the plane watching the sunset, and I said, you know, there's a lot of times when I'm like, man, I wish I would have just been born in America. And now I think the opposite. And I'm very happy that I was not born in America and that I became a naturalized citizen. The reason for that is because I have a different perspective of the world, of America, and much more appreciation and of race than the people born here, right? I come from Cali, which is a very black city. We have a lot of black Colombians, right? Colombia is the second Colombia has the second largest African population after Brazil. Right, that's how
Really?
much black people. Yes, that's how much black people we have
In South America.
in South America. You go to areas of Colombia. You go to El Chocó, you go to La Costa, you go to a city like mine.
Barranquilla too, no?
Barranquilla,
Right,
that's in La
Barranquilla as
Costa.
well.
You go to Cartagena and it's black Latinos, right? It's the
And that the
African heritage.
families are so diverse. Colombian families are all
Right.
very diverse.
So-
You'll have blonde, light
Right.
eyes, and dark. So there, it's even in the family dynamics, you
It's
see
very diverse.
these
Absolutely.
eclectic mix of races.
Absolutely.
So our perception as somebody that was not born here, like when we would come here on trips and like, you know, there's this grandiose thing about America that's like, man, you're wearing Nikes, like that's an American brand. I remember getting a pair of Nikes and showing off to my friends, and like it wasn't so much that it was the shoes, that it was an American brand. You understand? It's
Facts.
like Adidas. Anything was like, wow, like from Los Yankees, like this is so fucking cool because it's America.
Because America
And we
was the
always
GOAT.
saw America as this land that was way less racist than we were.
Mhm.
Let's be honest with you. Like I remember hearing my mom like, yeah, over there you see a lot of like mixed race couples, and because we already had that, right? We're mulattoes, we're Latinos, so it is what it is. We're all muds over there in Colombia, but over here it's like, yeah, you know, like it's so free and fair for everybody. There's no such thing as a perception that America was a racist country, or else you wouldn't have people moving here. Is there
100%.
racist people? For sure. Is there racist people? 100%, right? And by the way, it's all races. There's black races, there's white races, there's
Yeah.
Latino races.
Everyone
side,
is
yeah.
racist.
Everyone.
Everyone is
Inherent.
inherently racist.
Right. So if you guys saw the movie Encanto, which I just rewatched yesterday, and for some reason I went online and I said, let me see what other people are saying about Encanto. One of the negative comments about Encanto came from a liberal that's not even Colombian. He's actually Japanese or something like that. He said that it didn't actually represent that family that was very diverse. The Madrigales in the movie wasn't a true it wasn't a true representation of the Colombian
What the fuck
families.
does he know?
Hold on, of the Colombian families, because they don't look that diverse. Yes, we do.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
we
a
do.
damn
The
lie.
way that I look, if I showed you, and I think I showed you recently what my little cousins look like, that just started college, they live here, they're black. My cousins are black. A black family. If you look at my aunt that lives in Canada, she's white as fuck. She looks German. If you look at me, I look a little bit more mulata. I'm more mixed. Our
Tajiquísima.
family, thank you, gracias. Our family looks just like the Madrigal. That's how diverse we are. So I didn't grow up with this perception, like this whole race thing of like black and white. Like it's still so foreign to
Bro,
me
but
because we didn't grow up like that.
That's what irks me, is that they think that they can go ahead and give their opinion cuando no tiene nada que ver. They don't
Right.
know shit about fuck when it comes, like, that guy's Asian.
Right.
How is he gonna go and give his opinion about what?
Well, it's the
what
same way they call us Latinx.
I was just going there.
Literally, like it's the same way that they said we're gonna change the Spanish language because the Spanish language has gender,
It's a
unlike the
gendered
American.
language, correct.
Like
The
you,
only
ridiculous.
people that say Latinx are white people and
Right.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've never heard.
Paola Ramos.
I've never heard of
Paola
Spanish.
Ramos.
Oh yeah, and Ana Navarro.
Well,
Latinx, yeah.
You know, speaking of Ana Navarro, one of my friends, Abraham from
Otra
Bienvenidos,
frustrada.
she just went at it with my friend from Bienvenidos. The president of Bienvenidos is Abraham, and I just saw this clip right before coming here where Ana Navarro attacked him. He is a Mexican American, has actually family in Mexico still, and close family. to
She's
the- to
racist
the
as
border.
fuck.
She's super fucking racist, and I'm seeing her in this debate with this man who's very well spoken, very moderate, very honest, and you know he's telling Anna like, hey, you don't have family that lives at the border. I do. This is a problem that affects them. I spent a lot of time at the border. These are real problems that are affecting Latinos, and you're mad because DeSantis shipped 50 people to a rich island, and she's there con la cara de tranca, pissed as fuck, like just mad. Like she can't even say anything. He destroyed her in this argument, in this debate, with a very eloquent, nice, intelligent, and she just couldn't say anything because her whole thing is this is human trafficking. DeSantis is a bad person. He should have just left them in Florida or wherever they were supposed to go. And this guy who is Mexican is saying, dude, this is like, I'm a Mexican and my family is at the border and this is affecting us. Like, you're an elitist, you live in Coral Gables in a multi-million-dollar mansion, You do not represent. Ana Navarro, by the way, does not represent the majority of the working class in Miami.
Not.
not.
Absolutely
She does
not.
not.
She's a fucking. You're right. Nowhere near a good
She's
representation
propped
of Hispanics.
At all.
But what I was gonna say, and then I noticed it while you were talking, they also, the left they have an excellent way of basically desensitizing words.
I talk about it
like
here all
human
the time.
trafficking. Get the fuck out of here, bro. You, with as big a fucking problem as human trafficking is, you're gonna fucking sit here and for political purposes suggest that what DeSantis did with those immigrants was human trafficking, bro. Like, you're a fucking disgrace. The other one, what was the other word that they fucking desensitized? Oh, the insurrection.
Oh my God.
Insurrection.
The insurrection.
There was no insurrection.
They
I talk about
almost
this all
took
the
the
time.
country.
How are you gonna take the country,
The
bro?
fuck outta
Americans
here,
are the
bro.
most heavily armed nation
Especially
in the entire
conservatives.
country.
The fuck
You
outta here.
cannot tell me that
But it's
there
just
was
the-
a plan to take over the
it's the
freaking
drama.
political with freaking.
And by the
It's
way,
propaganda.
I
It's
blame
propaganda.
Trump for that because he was not prepared for that.
Yeah. Well, no,
blame
he
Trump for
tried.
that.
He tried
He tried.
because
He-
he asked
he
the
was-
mayor,
he
he
got
asked
got.
Bowser, he asked,
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to me. He asked Bowser days before the so-called insurrection to deploy, what was it?
The National
The
Guard.
I don't know how many thousands
Thousands
or
of-
whatever
yeah.
of National Guard, because he knew, like, hey, this could get a little rowdy, or let's make sure that everything's. And she denied it. Why do you think she denied it?
Yeah, because he
Why
fell,
won't
and he
they
fell
release?
into that trap.
Why won't they release
that's the trap he fell into.
14,000 hours of video that they have? They won't release it because
he
it's
fell
going
into
to
that
make them
trap.
look bad. They know that if Americans were really going to cause an insurrection, they're not going to go there unarmed, bro.
Insurrection.
Please.
It's so
Well,
cookie.
it's the slap in
It's
the
so
face
cookie.
after
It
they
makes
made
sense.
us sit through the summer of love, burning down communities. We saw.
Summer
I
of
remember
Love.
that one gentleman. He was actually black himself. I believe in California or in Portland. I can't remember now. The kid with the skateboard that went at him, busted his head open. All of us watched him die on live TV. His
Mhm.
family watched a black man die
Mhm.
on live TV at the hands of a white Antifa member.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
bro. Yeah, bro. And nobody. Where
Nobody
was
knew.
Billy? Where was Billy?
They justified it. You don't remember that they told them, let them riot. That's how
Yeah.
they're getting
Well,
their
listen,
pay
I'm
now.
glad you brought it
Yeah.
up because, oh my god! And again,
It's
this
just
is
so much
this is taking me
hypocrisy.
back to those times when, because I was going ham, and I haven't been able to now because of the fucking censorship. But they talk about insurrections when these people had 4 or 5 city blocks locked down,
Yep.
Chaz.
and a fucking police precinct was part of one.
Yep.
They had, and again, maybe it sounds like, oh, yeah, right. You must be talking. Look it up. It was during
The
the
autonomous
pandemic.
zone. The
Yeah.
They
autonomous
had
zone.
4 or
Chaz.
5 city blocks worth of fucking Portland's.
Which,
Yo,
by the
shit
way,
was
that's
up in
never gone
flames.
back to being the way that it
Do you
was.
remember that
course
they had a warlord?
They did. They had
They
a
had a
Yeah,
warlord. They had a black
fucking
warlord. They
clowns.
literally had a fucking warlord, and there was so many things that were happening in that autonomous zone. They had to destroy it. There was women being raped. There was like theft.
More than 4 or 5 people died there.
Between each other. People died there
Yeah.
between each other because it was a fucking shit show.
And then they call the fucking what's happening on January 6th an insurrection.
Let me say one of the consequences of this rhetoric and this narrative of people like Billy Corbin about white supremacists and painting everybody on the right as some sort of domestic terrorist extremists. We have a case of an actual white supremacist in Miami. His name is Caleb Freestone. Look him up. Caleb Hunter Freestone. I want you guys to look that name up.
A violent man.
Violent member of Antifa who's not from Miami. He's about 25 years old. He moved here from Chicago, Illinois. Not sure when. I'm thinking it was the 2020 riots. This man, because of the Miami Anti-Fash page, started showing up to school board meetings. We have all of this documented. Started showing up to school board meetings. He doesn't have a child. He doesn't have a kid, right? And he shows up masked up with a hat. And what does he do? He sits there and he starts taking down names of all the parents who are talking about, the mask and whatever it is, to then go back and dox them on the internet. Okay, this happens. This guy, another meeting, he comes back. He gets into an altercation with a local YouTuber. Both of them go to jail because they ended up, fighting each other. Now, that was last year. Fast forward to now, Caleb is the same man that vandalized the pregnancy center, Heartbeat Miami in Hialeah. him and a partner, they vandalized that center. Okay. This man was also the one that got caught recently putting a big ass sign somewhere in a crate in downtown.
He was climbing up a construction
a construction site, SOS Biden, because of the Supreme Court decision to reverse Roe v. Wade. So now, last Saturday, that same man interrupted a pro-life gala at the Trump Hotel. They did a call to action. They're calling
Did
pro-life.
Yeah, they got arrested.
They got arrested, but they get released in $500.
They posted online,
right.
and immediately their fellow comrades bailed them out.
Yeah.
So then you have this man who has been ignited by people like Billy Corbin, by this narrative, a white man that does not even belong to our community, okay, who is oppressing Latinos, who does want to silence the voices of parents, who is actually committing violent crimes, vandalism in Latino businesses and organizations. Who is this caused by? People like Billy Corbin.
But this is going to stop because this is what the coalition is about.
He's a source.
Hey, listen
He's
to
a
me.
source.
They're doxing abuelas on Twitter. I have a picture of like an 89-year-old woman
That's disgusting, bro.
that because she's pro-life. Because
And that's
shit.
another thing
How
that
is
you
that-
brought up today, which is
because
that
she's
they're
pro-life?
attacking people for a decision that was made by the Supreme Court. We didn't vote on that.
And by the way, shout out to them because you know they're
We
listening.
didn't vote on that.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know they're listening.
We're
Oh,
getting
absolutely.
close to
All
the end of the podcast. We want to take some questions.
Yeah,
Before
we
we
do.
do, we want to take this time. Remember that we are fully self-funded, no Illuminati, no
Absolutely.
lizard people. So hit the subscribe button, please, and support us. Check out our merch store. We're wearing our Far Right Latino merch, which is going to be extended
do a
into
sale,
Far Right
right.
Latino fall. We got a lot more things coming up, but if you can please just help us out, support us. If you feel inclined to help us with a monetary contribution, that's also appreciated. So at a minimum, please, if you can share our content and hit the subscribe, really appreciated. So I guess that we want to take a couple of questions. I don't know if anybody on the chat has some. We'll just continue to talk our shit in the meantime, but feel free to submit your
Wait,
questions.
Caleb, I'm putting here. So Caleb Freestone.
Yeah.
And we also identified the woman that was with him, and she was also at the school board meeting last week. So this is what I like to call a white supremacist, and we're gonna go with that. So Billy Corbin, if you're listening right now, or any of your goons, you are the one that is inciting violence against a Latino population in Miami, against 89-year-old grandmas.
Yeah.
You know what a piece of shit you are,
Cuck.
simply because
Yep.
you disagree with a Supreme Court decision that none of us here have anything to do with. Like, we're not crashing your pro-abortion, pro-murder event. Like, you are free to advocate for whatever it is that you want.
That's simple.
And we're not here like, oh, here's a pro-choicer, like here's where she lives, where he lives.
So
That's fucking
sad.
bullshit.
It's
You know what? I
female
wanna-
behavior,
I want to
bro.
give a quick
That shit that
anecdote.
women do, bro. Like,
I want to give a quick anecdote because back in the day, I remember I would tell Linda and Bella, bro, you know what? Like, you can't fight fire with fire. Like, you just gotta live and let live type of bullshit.
Mhm.
Because I believe that at one point.
That's what they
You know
want.
what I mean? But the fact of the matter is, they don't allow you to live. So how do you live and let live if the opposition doesn't let you live?
only releases a fight
Look
back.
at
There's no
Look
way.
at you being
Yeah,
radicalized
but
on
it's
live.
true. And it took time, and it took a lot of time for me to see it this way. But it's the truth. You can't. It's things like that. They silence you. They bully you. They force you to abide by whatever they want. How do you
Cuck
live and let live
behavior.
like that?
Cuck
You
behavior.
can't. There's no fucking way.
because they can't confront you, bro.
No,
Yeah.
they just
They
want to
can't
side. They don't want to
confront
have
you.
the altercation
And they
because they
go
know
they
they
go
can't
behind
win.
your back and do pussy
Today,
ass shit
Billy
like
woke
that.
up from his Antifa page, where he is an open Marxist there. And he was talking, I guess, trying to make the argument that, oh, it's not doxing. It's not doxing because we're not giving, it's all information that I can find publicly on the internet.
You know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing. You know that you're
doing.
releasing
No,
information
no,
with
no.
a
If you're
malicious
drawing,
intent.
if you're drawing attention
Yeah.
to someone
Yeah.
and their personal information and their work
Right.
And their
information,
work, and this is where
that's
they work,
doxing, you
and
stupid
this is where,
motherfucker.
right,
Right.
and not to mention
Literally
that
gathering information to put it
before
out there.
you took over the page, your friends did feel very comfortable in listing where people worked and suggesting that people contact places of work to get people fired,
Right.
all because it's somebody
Soft-ass
that
motherfuckers,
you
dog.
don't agree with politically. It's coming to an end though. I'm letting you know right now, it's coming to an end because I think that this is the product of it. The one thing that this page had was the anonymity that it had in order to be able to operate, and you guys don't have that anymore.
Right.
And you can say failed docs 100 times. At one point, the story's gonna hit, and when it does, it's gonna be big, and it's gonna blow up in your face. It's gonna blow up in Balsera's face. It's gonna blow up in Carla's face. It's gonna blow up in the face of everybody that you guys were trying to protect. It was really simple. Don't attack people for stupid shit. If there was actual fascists in Miami, then by all means, Billy, knock yourself out and expose the Nazis of Miami. I don't want them here either because
Right.
I sure as shit don't want them associated with my party.
Right.
But for you to go out there and let's be honest, this isn't about activism. I can't even,
No,
we've
it's
talked
not.
about this before. I'll support a Thomas Kennedy and show some respect for Thomas Kennedy because at a minimum, he truly does believe the
And he
causes
showed
that
his-
And he
stands
shows his
behind.
face.
And he shows
He's
his
got
fucking
bigger balls
face
than you,
than
Billy.
you guys that do it just for
Soft-ass
money. You guys do it for
motherfuckers,
financial gain.
Right.
This is your job. Your job is to try and weaken the opposition, to try and weaken the voice. You don't do it because you actually care about
Cringe,
these
bro.
issues. You do it because it's your job to do it, which makes you a sellout. You sold yourself out. You sold your soul out. Jenny
He's
Lee
paid, he's
too.
paid to be a
I
fucking
hope-
hater.
I'm going to keep on talking about Jenny Lee running that page until the people in your family realize what it is that you are doing. Because you cannot continue
Una
to
frustrada.
operate in this city within a level of self-appointed authority that you think you have. Again, I'm sorry,
Literally.
I know that's your homegirl, but I'm gonna take for doing that every time. You cannot continue to operate on this self-attributed authority that you gave yourself while at the same time being an open anarchist behind closed doors.
You can't.
We're not gonna allow it. I'm letting you know right now. We're not gonna
No.
allow it. I'm not gonna shut the fuck up. You're gonna have to check every single page that I operate every single day and see your name there because that's I'm done with
Right.
the silence.
Mierda.
And also his little partner, Andrew Alfred Spellman, who
Is that his
um,
lawyer?
no, that's his
His partner
right.
and his company.
That's
Rackshaw,
his-
Rackshaw, what is it?
I forgot the name of their
Yeah.
little company, but the point is
Who
that
the
like
fuck?
yesterday he posted something that said like, oh Jay, here's an unfriendly reminder that Bremen Motors or whatever the dealership supports Marco Rubio. Like there's so many other dealerships that you can support. You guys have tried to cancel Publix, Whole Foods very recently. Billy Corbin tried to cancel Whole Foods,
yeah.
which is owned by Amazon or whatever. Like now you're trying to cancel the dealership. Obviously, none of this is going to work, and we don't care if you want to cancel them, never shop there again. But the point is that you do grift off our anti-communist culture of Miami because the only reason why he still has a career is because of fucking cocaine cowboys.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So moving
No,
forward,
he still has a career because of the DNC.
Yeah, that's for
That's
sure.
it. That's the
We
only.
have a
That's the only
question
money
here.
he's getting, and that's why he's going ham.
Yeah.
Because it's the only money he's getting, bro. He ain't fucking. The well has run dry. Yo, say no to soy, Billy.
Billy.
Say no to soy.
We have a question here from Stevie. He's asking, will there be another option to replace Radio Mambi?
and that's where we're stuck.
That's a great
and that,
question.
and that is something that we don't know. Though
That
we
comes
don't
down to
know,
money.
huh?
That comes down to money, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Another option for? Oh, you mean an alternative
Right.
station?
Radio
Right.
Mambi, it needs to
Right.
be
Got you.
created by us.
Right,
You know,
and
it's
it's something that I think. I mean, I hope that people with money and funds would be able to come up with an alternative solution to Radio Mambi. Obviously, we
the presenters
see-
at Radio Mambi don't clearly the new culture hasn't taken effect, but the presenters at Radio Mambi have all made a promise, if you will, that once this new management comes in, they're out.
They're
And
out.
that's
They're
the view,
out.
which again, it's
Of
their
course.
goal, because their goal isn't to keep the viewership. They
Of-
don't care if the
of
radio
course
station
not.
tanks. They just want it gone so that it's
There's no
to
voice.
combat
There's no
anyways.
there's no
Mhm.
narrative. They're the
Right.
conservative narrative right now.
Absolutely.
Just want to give a shout out to Eric. Thank you so much for your donation. We really, really appreciate it. And he asked, are there any good local organizations back to donate to help build a war chest against the left's mega donor culture? The best organization, especially here at a local level, is CCDF. So CCDF started last year. Billy Corbin also has a hard on for them and all the Miami communists because they're well funded and organized, and they're the people that were driving the change at a local level. They actually stand for county citizens for
Demand
freedom,
the-
county citizens for freedom or something
Yeah.
like that. So it's all about the county level politics, and this is the only organization that we would probably budge
But
for
for
that we know that are doing the work, that we know that show up to commission meetings, to the school boards,
the election integrity. I mean, you
integrity.
name it. If there's
They
an
are-
issue that we're
right.
concerned about and that we need boots on the ground efforts with, the CCDF is a part of it. Here in
Mhm.
Miami, we already have a chapter. One of the beautiful things about it is that if no matter where it is that you're at in the country, you can get in contact with the CCDF and try and see what you can do about bringing the organization into a local chapter. So we would strongly encourage you guys to look into the CCDF,
And
donate
you
money
can
to the
donate
CCDF.
CCDF,
They're putting
right.
money towards the right causes, and they're really giving citizens a voice at a local level. And they've been able to make a lot of move here in Miami-Dade, in Polk County, Florida, where it is that they've been up. So if there's any organization that Linda and I would stand behind, we definitely say the CCDF.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody asked something about Puerto Rico. I'm going to be honest with you about Puerto Rico for a second. I see a lot of people, and I feel bad, nothing against Puerto Ricans, and I hope they're okay with the current situation of the hurricane. When I went to Puerto Rico in July, there's a lot of hate towards white people in Puerto Rico, even though it is a U.S. colony. Actually saw graffiti signs, posters, gringos fuera, gringos get out, stuff like that, because they claim, which is partially true, that all these white rich people have moved to Puerto Rico, especially to evade taxes or because of their tax laws, whatnot. And that, they're displacing the population. People have to move, all these things. Yeah, a lot of it may be true, but it's also true that Puerto Ricans have not taken care of their island.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, it's the politicals. Because I'll be honest with you, I lived on the island for 2 years, and the citizens of Puerto Rico do care a lot about their island. In fact, they're very territorial about it. Puerto Rico is the kind of place where you go to the beach and you drop a little piece of trash, and immediately you'll have people around you.
I don't think the U.S. has done right.
Their government has failed them.
I don't think the U.S. has done right by Puerto Rico. Just my opinion.
Yeah, but
and absolutely, they have failed at the local level, obviously.
As well, yeah.
But I do think that the U.S. has failed Puerto Rico.
They're not the most hardworking people out there. So when you're not hardworking,
because they came from a nanny state,
and when
they came from a nanny state,
you kind of like, people are gonna conquer you, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And so, Bad Bunny and all these people are bitching and have a problem that a private company, Luma, bought the grid, and they're the ones that are in charge of the power. It's like, well, you only have two options. It's either going to be private or it's going to be by the government.
Right.
Even FPL, I'm pretty sure FPL is a private
organization. We kind of talked about this the other day.
Quasi-government, if I'm not mistaken, but
we talked about this the other day, where it's like the difference in mentalities, where like someone from the U.S. states, that has an opportunity mindset, a capitalist mindset, goes somewhere where you're more laid back. You don't really you don't have that mindset of gaining money, and you see opportunity and you take over.
Yeah,
this is what are you gonna do about that?
Right.
You're allowing it.
We have a question in the comments that is asking us what we think of Alex Otaola running for mayor against Daniela Levin Cava. Thoughts?
Wow.
Otaola?
I'm not familiar.
He's like a Cuban.
Otaola is a very popular Spanish. What is he?
An influencer, content creator, podcaster.
He has a show.
Cubanos del mundo. No, not Palante, niña.
I'm so sorry.
No, absolutely not. Por ahí al otro like, huh? No, Cubanos del mundo. He has several million, I think it's close to 2 million followers across all of his platforms.
Mm-hmm.
He's an openly gay man, a gay Cuban man. He's clearly completely anti-communism, and he just announced that he's going to run against Daniela Levin Cava.
Is he really?
As a Republican?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Otaola in the house. Follow back.
I can't wait to see the national coverage of this mayorship campaign, because I can't wait for Otaola to come out with his fan and his abanico
with the sass, boy.
Right.
With that sass.
Yeah, and Otaola's wild, dude. Like every once in a while, he does not care. I'll tune into his live stream and I just watch his videos, and he's out there calling everyone out.
Oh, that's how you do it, bro.
Nancy Pelosi. I mean, he goes through a list. And
it's over for Cava.
And it's all in Spanish. He has a lot of the new Cubanitos recién llegados aquí. He has a lot of those followers, and I think that we're going to see how people like Jenny Lee, people like Corbyn, people like the other idiot Mark Rivero, Thomas Kennedy are going to paint a gay Latino as some sort of far right
white
extremist
supremacist
that's trying to take over Miami. Billy Corbin was a huge advocate of Levine Cava, which now, of course, he loves to play the devil's advocate. I'm holding her accountable. Like, she was never the right person to begin with. You guys always just get behind these shitty people because they have a D next to their name. And that's what happened with Cava. And now he's going
It was a
off.
little deeper with Cabo, but yeah,
What?
it was deeper with Cabo.
Yeah.
There was other reasons.
By
It wasn't
who?
just because she was a Democrat. In other words.
Oh, right.
No, there was
There's
so
other
that's a
reason.
conversation for another
Right.
day. Thank you to Mark C for your donation. We appreciate it. Check who you DM'd. Make sure you DM'd mostly Peaceful Latinas. I'm not on Instagram right now, but you can find me on DM on Telegram at Red Pill Babe
Yeah.
if you want to get some questions out.
So, I think this concludes the end of our first
Is
live
this our first
stream.
live?
This was our first live.
Woo!
Thank you
Holla
so
back.
much to our
Thank you for
lovely
having us, man.
guest.
Thank you. I had a great time. Hope I can be on here again soon.
Thank you for having
Absolutely.
us.
Thank
Thanks
you guys for
It's
everyone
been a
coming
lovely
in.
time. Can't wait to get doxxed after this.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Guys,
Holla back.
before we get
We'll be
going,
refreshing the page.
before
Say
we
no to
get
soy, Billy.
going, please, guys, don't forget, support us, subscribe, share this episode if you like our content, and also check out our merch store. Once again, fully self-funded, no lizard people, no Illuminati. And until next week, thank you guys for tuning in.
Bye.
Later.